And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. It's your Friday roundtable. I don't know about you guys, but for some reason, this week to me was flying. I was like, wow, I can't believe it's Friday already. If anybody stayed up late last night was a great game, by the way. I was watching the 49ers and the Rams. They went to overtime. That was an awesome game if anybody got a chance to watch it. So stayed up late. Your Friday roundtable. Content never ends. Off-duty NYPD detective pretended to be Trump security. Want to be Trump security? John, let's jump right into it. Marlon, chat, everybody, how you doing? Let's do it.
Yeah, so NYPD Detective Melvin Ang apparently snuck into the Ryder Cup. He snuck in by showing up in that quasi-uniform, Secret Service-esque uniform. And obviously he gets in, which is a problem because it shows how bad security is at these details. You know, because not most of them, but usually the details, you're credentialed, you're signed in, especially something like that. And the president was there that day. So it's a huge security breach. It's multiple faceted topic, really, because one, there's a huge security breach from when it's a collab effort with the Secret Service, the state troopers, and the NYPD. That's one. You know, it shows like event security is weak. It shows a breakdown of competence in these agencies. And then on the other aspect of it, it shows another thing about what's going on inside the NYPD, where there's this like air of I could do whatever the hell I want, wherever. And so, you know, Melvin is the president of the Asian Jade Society in the NYPD. From all accounts, everyone I know likes him. I haven't heard anybody say a bad thing about him. Said he's a nice guy. I think he has about 14 or 15 years on the job, second grade detective. And he works like he has federal credentials. So, you know, again, it really starts to make me think like, what the hell's going on in the mind state of the average rank and file officers? Like, is this something that I would ever do to go see an event? And the answer to me is no. I think it's, you know, I don't think you'd be in the right head to do that. Marlon, before I kick it over to you, just want to remind you guys that we just revamped our website. If you go over to www.thefinestunfiltered.com, if you check out the QR code that's right above my head, you could just scan it. It'll bring you right to the website as well. Check out the news articles we've been doing. We'll be dropping our latest newsletter later on this evening. So, and that's it. And Marlon, what do you got, brother?
Yeah. Good morning, guys. Morning chat. Happy Friday. I see you guys in the chat. There's a Yankees game last night. I didn't watch it, by the way. I haven't watched baseball in years. I'd love to play it, but I'm not really watching it because I think the presentation kind of sucks, you know. But I see you guys there, Ron. And I'm also from the island, so we watch cricket down there. Baseball isn't that's not the Queen's game, you know. No, I'm joking. I do watch cricket, but yeah, we got a lot to talk about today, and this incident is very interesting because I think there's a lot we can take from it. You know, I'm pretty sure that wasn't the first time any NYPD cop has snuck into that Ryder Cup. I have a feeling it wasn't, but I have a feeling this is probably the end of it. So those guys who enjoy that kind of, I guess, maybe perk, you know, of being law enforcement and being NYPD, the days of doing that are probably over now. And like we always said, cops we're our own worst enemy. But yeah, let's get started. A lot to talk about today.
You know, like a good New Yorker, I love the Yankees too. But since I've been traveling, I spent a lot of time in California, so I had a good time enjoying watching the Rams play the 49ers. That was actually an awesome game. I enjoy watching football, especially on a Thursday night. But I think there's this phenomenon that has been going on for just the culture of the NYPD. I don't know about other law enforcement agencies. I can't speak for that. But for the NYPD, there is a syndrome, and it's called the nice guy syndrome. There was actually a point, if you go back, John and myself, we did a podcast about the nice guy syndrome. And it's always been like the default when we talk about the character of a cop. Like, the cop went out, he raped 12 women, and rhetorically speaking, some cop went out and raped 12 women, and the cop went out and crashed 20 cars. Oh, but he's a nice guy. Cop went out, stole this, stole that. Oh, but he's a nice guy. This part, we always hear that as the default. Why does it always have to be, oh, but he's a nice guy? It seems like everybody in the NYPD is a nice guy. But are they a good guy? Are they someone that you could trust? Now, we've heard different perspectives when it comes to this particular second-grade detective on his character and his behavior at the Ryder Cup. Now, some people have said that potentially it could be an issue because of a medical condition that he's been enduring. Now, what I could say about that is, if that is the case, I feel sorry for him. And that's why there's so many facets to it and different aspects we have to look at. If it's an issue about his medical and he has been properly evaluated by the NYPD, that's a failure on the NYPD leadership and the system to ensure that our people are in good physical and mental health to actually perform on and off duty. Now, I have to be honest, I'm skeptical of that. I don't think that's the case based on my observations. I do believe that he was fully aware of what he did, knowing it's wrong for the fact that he did it 2 days in a row. So these are just my observations. Now, if he did do this, the other problem is it shows the lack of control within the police department and lack of discipline on a fair and equitable level that we always talk about. Why? Because it's obvious if he's a second-grade detective, then most likely he's in the tier 2. Also, he's the president of the Asian Jade Society, so he has a lot of connections. What does that mean if he's in tier 2? That means that he has all the connections by favoritism, cronyism, nepotism, which means that he would not be concerned about discipline coming down from the police department. The same aspect if someone was like John, Marlon, myself, Sal Greco, Rob, Ron, if you're part of tier 3, you'd be general population. So to me, there's different ways to look at this. Based on my observations, it's clear and evident that he's part of tier 2 and knew that he's got good connections and the discipline would not hit him as hard as it would hit someone else. Those are my observations so far.
Yeah, just to clarify one thing though, we're not 100% that he was there 2 days in a row. That was just rumored. We don't know for a fact that if he was there 2 days in a row. We do know he was out sick at the time, and what he did is actually illegal. So I got a phone call almost immediately upon us reporting on it, and then the post a few days later, putting it out as an exclusive. It's an exclusive, Tina. Exclusives that after I got it from the finest, right? That's how that works. So I got a phone call, and it was from Sergeant Steven Lee, and he's like, "This is ridiculous, bro," and he just started going on a tear. So I was like, "Why don't you come on Friday?" So I just want to bring up to the stage Sergeant Steven Lee. Steve, what's up, brother?
What's up? How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you good, bro.
Steve, what's going on?
Your background's a little funky, but
yeah. My room's a mess, so I got my meds everywhere and everything,
Well, no worries. What are your thoughts about this? We're talking about the second grade detective Melvin Ang, president of the Asian Jade Society, who snuck into the Ryder Cup, was ultimately suspended. He was out sick, was not arrested.
He should be in jail. He should have got arrested. I think he should have got arrested because it's not just some like typical tinning type of situation. It's not going to Dunkin' Donuts getting free coffee because you're in uniform or whatever stuff like that. People get arrested for shoplifting, right? This guy breached security, national security. This is the president we're talking about, right? There was attempted assassinations on him and stuff like that, and you're gonna just waltz in with your firearm, hanging out at the Ryder Cup. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And then you're gonna lie about it and say, "Oh, I'm on the detail." Who does that? I've been in the meat packing district too, you know, like tinning my way into like clubs and stuff like that, and cutting the line.
I gotta worry about you and John. You guys are both talking about the meat packing district. Okay,
We walk the same way too, you know. I'm pretty
you
sure
got the same gate, the same
The
walk.
same-
Yeah, the same gate. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just ridiculous. And I think he did it because he knew he could get away with it. You know, like he's going to get away with it. I'm pretty sure he will. You know, president of the Asian J, they don't help their members. I was part of the Asian J ever since out of the academy in 2005. You know, and when my stuff went down, like they didn't help at all. I even found out that they were the people that leaked my undercover work. You know, because at these meetings they tell each other, "Oh, look, we're having this IB has an investigation here. Stay away from here," and stuff like that. Whatever stuff, so forth and so on. So it's just ridiculous. They don't help their members. They only help whoever's on the board. You know, and I mean, I met some great people at Asian J. Right? There's some great cops I met at Asian J, and you know, I'm still friends with them now. And even they stopped going. After a while, you just stop going. You know, it's just like, this is ridiculous.
Well, Stephen, let me ask you this, right? You were part of the Asian Jade Society, and
Yes,
but
sir.
unfortunately, with general population. But
Yeah.
are we off base saying that because he's the president of the Asian Jade Society, that he is part of tier 2, getting that cronyism, nepotism, that he would feel, or we could assume, right? And again, it's a good point you made, John. It's a rumor to be that he was there 2 days in a row, but we could assume that the arm of discipline would not come for him the same way it came for you.
Absolutely. 1,000%. 1,000%. You know, and I'm pretty sure he made president and that he's getting what he, you know, his second grade and all that stuff because he sold out his members. You know, that's what they do.
So let me ask you guys a question, and Marlon, if you want to go first. If Melvin Eng wasn't part of the Asian Jade Society, if he wasn't the president of the Asian Jade Society, excuse me, not that he was a member, if he wasn't president, do you think he would have been arrested for his actions that day? Do you believe that there were high-level phone calls made on his behalf all the way up to and including the chief of detectives?
1,000%.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But here's the thing. I'm not sure he would have been arrested, but I'm going to say this, that I think the state troopers and the Secret Service, I think they kind of, you know, they kind of let him go easy on it, you know. I think because, you know, these guys still respect NYPD, you know, and they still admire the department. They, you know, they're not as, they don't understand a lot of the problems that go on with it now, but they still admire the department. And I think, you know, regardless of who he was, NYPD, I think they might have still let him go, you know, but also, especially since he was part of I think he's the El Dorado Task Force, which is like, it's one of those financial crimes task forces. But I think you're correct, John, that he's, or rather Eric, that he's going to be all right on the job. I mean, he's going to be suspended now. He's going to be fine. They're going to take care of him. We all know that's going to happen. But I think, you know, when it comes to that being able to tin your way in, I think those days are over. And I think the next guy who were to be caught doing it is not going to get off so easily. You know, I think these agencies, when he spoke to them and they realized this guy clearly does belong there, and you know, he's kind of maybe a little boob, you know, for doing it. They figured, you know what, he's NYPD still, and he's a member of he's a task force member. So let's just tell him to go, and let's make a phone call and let his supervisors take care of him.
So I think it's important to note, anytime there's an incident involving off-duty police officer, which he was, a duty captain is going to respond, even if it's outside the city. Duty captain's going to respond. So the NYPD was full aware of his actions in real time, and they were involved in the process. So there's no doubt in my mind that there was favoritism, nepotism, cronyism on his behalf from the NYPD. Those conversations were had. We don't know. We don't know the entire story. It's very possible that he was detained for a period of time, and maybe they were having a conversation with the NYPD making the determination if they were going to make the arrest or not. There's no doubt in my mind that there was communications and conversations. The NYPD would have been immediately notified that he's a member of the service, and they would have responded immediately, especially something like this. Especially right now, the Secret Service is on high alert. The FBI is on high alert. All law enforcement, any type of security at a Trump detail, especially right now in the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk, 2 attempted assassinations on Donald Trump. They're on high alert. They're going to be highly prepared, and no one is going to be trusted, even an NYPD cop. Yes, is the NYPD revered by most law enforcement agencies throughout the entire country and throughout the entire world? Yes, but I can tell you this. I've been traveling for 3 years now, and in 3 years now, I could see the decline of the image and the stigma of the NYPD to be the go-to policing for people all over the entire world. When I first retired, people were kind of impressed to be a former member of the NYPD. Great conversations. Now, in comparison, 3 years later, the conversations, wow, what's going on in that city? So I think that, unfortunately, we've lost that respect. It's declining. And I do think there was definitely a conversation, and I do think that it was in his favor and politically on his behalf. There's no doubt in my mind, if that was one of us in general population, the duty captain would be responding to verify your arrest.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got phone calls already that saying that he was seen in one police plaza yesterday. You know, like, you're suspended. What are you going to one police plaza for? You know?
Yeah. I mean, listen, it is what it is. Like, he is the thing. I think that I hear what you're saying, Marlon, but I don't think that happened. I think a couple of years ago that might have been the case, where the state troopers and the feds would say, oh, you know, he's an NYPD guy, he's all right. This story's a little weird, bro. I think that there was some real heavy intervention on the part of the upper echelon, because it doesn't make sense to me. Like, you just had, they put yourself in the shoes, right? You're doing Secret Service, you're doing credentialing, you're doing this, and now all of a sudden, boom, you get notified that, hey, listen, we got this guy, NYPD detective. He's got full tactical gear. We just found a magazine off into the woods. Now, we're hearing it wasn't his magazine, but they didn't know where the magazine came from. 16-round or 17-round magazine, you know, law enforcement style magazine, I believe matching the gun he was carrying. And
Well,
oh, man,
we lose John.
he did the Jim Walden.
I can tell you right now, John might be using my Starlink. If you notice, my Starlink's been much better lately. But I can tell you this: what John is alluding to is what I was saying earlier, Marlon. That you're right. At some point, the NYPD was kind of its own PBA card, right? The NYPD helped you throughout the entire world. It was iconic, right? If you said you were NYPD anywhere, that would hold some weight. But I'm telling you, I can see the decline in the past 3 years in retirement. And 3 years is not a long time, but it's a long enough time that you could see the decline process of the image of the police department. And there was a time where you held your chest high, like, wow, it was NYPD, you know. But now the conversation, I can tell you this, is much different. And even I told you guys in a prior episode, one time I was walking in this like bar restaurant in Alaska, a very remote area. I just had to use the restroom. I was traveling to a hot springs, and I went to this bar restaurant. It was a bunch of older guys from Alaska. They're watching TV on Fox News. And what are they watching? About Zohran Mamdani. And what do they hear from Zohran Mamdani and other politicians in New York City? Defund the NYPD. The NYPD is bad. The NYPD is this. And if you've never been to New York City, you know what? Those are subliminal messages. And this is the image that people get the NYPD. So to your point, Marlon, I understand what you're saying. But when it comes to the Secret Service, especially with the high-level threats that there are right now, the decline of the image of the NYPD, I don't think they get the same favoritism. John, welcome back, brother. You must be using my Starlink.
Nah, my internet's completely fine. I don't understand what the hell that was. All right, whatever. Whatever. So what the hell was I saying? I was saying I don't think I don't think that's what happened. I think that there was some intervention on the part of the upper echelon of the NYPD. So put yourself in the shoes of them there, right? You get notified that we just found a magazine, law enforcement style. Then you get notified that that's dumped, you know, an ammo clip, for those of you that aren't cops, an ammo clip filled with bullets, 17 round, looks like it's law enforcement style. And then you get notified that, hey, we got this cop here dressed like he's part of the security detail, and he's claiming to be part of Trump's detail. He's got Fed ID. He's got police ID. He's not credentialed to be here at all. We just confirmed with the department that he's not supposed to be here and he's out sick. Are you not collaring that guy? Even if I like that guy, there's something weird there, dude. Like, I don't know what's happening. I'm arresting that guy. 100%. And I think the state troopers and I think the feds are, and I think there was heavy intervention on the part of the upper echelon of the NYPD, because it doesn't make sense to me, especially like, Steve brought it up. You guys brought it up. We just had the Charlie Kirk assassination. We've had the lives on the president's, we've had attempts on the president's life twice already. And I think there was even other times that it was thwarted. So, I don't know. Even if you respect the NYPD, you have to be like, we have to figure out what the hell's going on here, and I don't think that, and I don't think that gets cleared up on the scene without you having the upper echelon of the NYPD reach out to do that.
Yeah, a couple of things. Just sorry to cut you off, Eric. A couple of things.
No,
Just what Eric was saying. Like, you can see it. Even like laterals now, they used to take laterals in different departments, across different states. And now they don't even accept NYPD applicants anymore for laterals, because the stigma of it now is like, we're perps, we're like how we used to look at corrections, how we used to think all corrections is all perps, right? Like, they look at us like at perps now because all the stuff in the news and all the scandals. The other thing is, I heard that the state trooper supervisor wanted to collar him. They wanted to collar him, and then for some reason they just didn't. So I absolutely agree. There was definitely phone calls made, and he definitely called one of his higher up hooks and got him off. Which is unfair.
There's no doubt in my mind. I worked in housing predominantly my entire career, and anytime we have a president come in town, most of the housing locations border bodies of water. If you look at housing in New York City, think about it. Most of them do border bodies of water. And what also borders bodies of water in New York City are highways, right? So when I worked in the Lower East Side in PSA 4, we would get on top of the buildings and we would do, help out with security when a president was coming through and watch the highways and things like that, and make sure people aren't going on the roofs. Obviously, further protection, right? Protect the roofs, potential snipers. And I remember the relationship that we had with the Secret Service out there. And I have to tell you, it wasn't good in a sense. Like, I get it. For the most part, we were revered. But even then, when times were good, the Secret Service at that time looked at the NYPD as kind of like a secondary supplement at these presidential details. And I have to, based on the way they acted, I don't think they put too much stock in the NYPD's ability when it came to those presidential details. So, yeah, I think we're kind of revered when it comes to city police work. But when it comes to certain things, I don't think that we were viewed as really intelligible at those details. I mean, I saw a lot of times they would tell the commanders and other leaders kind of to tell us to get out of their way. That they kind of wanted the NYPD out of their way, that they were more cumbersome and a burden on their ability. So with an NYPD off-duty police officer at an event like that, times are good or times are bad. If they're general population, I would say that person would be arrested. Also, why would they be arrested also? Because you could assume that the Secret Service or the FBI would want to have an ability to have an interrogation and find out, is this something really more than meets the eye? Is it just a police officer that wants to be at the Ryder Cup, or is this something deeper? Is this police officer possibly part of a cell that wants to attack the president? I mean, Sal Greco was accused of wanting to take down the government, right? For nothing. But yet this police officer is a wannabe security at the Trump event, and he only gets a suspension. Think about it. He gets just a suspension. Sal Greco was wrongfully terminated. I mean, can we not see the scales? There's no doubt in my mind that he was part of Tier 2. I've been talking about this 3-tiered system in the NYPD, and it's real. There is no fair and equitable treatment. If you're general population, that's where discipline applies. If you're part of Tier 1, the upper echelon, you outweigh the system. And if you're tier 2, you get the amenities of cronyism, nepotism, and favoritism.
Yeah, I'm still gonna disagree with you guys, and the reason why I'm saying it is because this guy also. Let's keep in mind this guy also had a Homeland Security ID, for being on that task force, and he probably knew some feds too. And who knows if I'll agree with one point. He could have easily made a phone call, but that phone call could have been not necessarily to NYPD, but somebody on that task force or somebody in HSI that let the other guys know, hey, this guy's good. He screwed up. Just let him go. We'll take care of him. His supervisors would take care of him. So now if he was a regular patrol cop walking in there with no experience dealing with the feds, no ID, just a regular like a patrol cop walking in there, that may have been a different story, but this guy is not. He's a guy who works with the feds regularly, so he has a kind of like a one-up on say the regular patrolman, and remember, he's also a second grader who I guess being part of the Asian Jade Society, who knows who in the feds he knows. Maybe he knows people, higher up there, that maybe they come to the Asian Jade parties too, So I can't necessarily say that the phone call he made was to 1PP to get him out of this jam. But again, I'm saying that nothing's happening to him. He's going to get taken care of in the job because, especially now with the job making an outreach to the Asian community. I've said it before, in particular, the South Asian community, but the job is making an outreach for the Asian community, he's going to be taken care of because I'm sure, has connects in the Asian community and how the job is.
I don't know about the job making outreach to the Asian community. They're just making outreach, like it's not real outreach. It's just, I guess, for social media, for the media and stuff like that. And it's because they want the money. The Asians donate a lot to politics, and Asians, donate a lot to the police foundation and stuff like that. The Asian Jade also is actually national. They're part of a national chapter, and they have Asian Jade in federal. They have Asian Jade in COPA, like corrections. They have Asian Jade, in the FBI, Secret Service. They all have Asian Jade clubs, so they all know each other. They go to a national meeting every year and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure, he probably made multiple phone calls. And I definitely still think that he did reach out to some higher ups in the NYPD, and they made a phone call, and then he just didn't get arrested. They're like, we'll handle it in house. We'll take care of him, as you said. But how are they going to take care of him? Suspend him for 30 days and then let it die out in the media, transfer him out to to bookings or stuff like that while he's modified for a year, and then he could just sneak back into his detail. It's ridiculous. It's just, the point of it is, like you said, if it was just a regular cop, they would have been collared. Suspended, and then would have been expedited to get their department trial and fired. But this guy, I'm pretty sure you're going to see his trial is going to be dragged along, right? People are going to forget about it, and then he's just going to make his way back into his detail and possibly even make first grade.
Yeah, I mean, if you let a couple of years pass by, I mean, but I think you guys are like this. This is really a national security emergency. So this is not that much different than you sneaking across the White House lawn while the president's giving a speech and then telling the feds that, oh no, I'm here, I'm working on Trump's detail. It's that level of credentialing. So this was a 5-alarm fire the minute they realized that this guy wasn't credentialed. This went right to, Jessica Tisch's phone rang right away. Chief of IB's phone rang right away. Chief of Detective's phone rang right away. So it is a big deal, and to be fair, a lot of people on here are saying oh, he's claiming health episode. He never claimed that. I said that. I was aware that he was out sick because he either had a stroke or he had a heart attack. That was me saying that it could possibly be a result of that. I'm sure that was used as to why he wasn't arrested and got played up to why another factor as to why he wasn't arrested. But I was just saying that. I was just putting the details out there because it was only out there, it was floating around that he was out sick, but they weren't saying why. Why was he out sick? Did he just call in sick because he was going to go play cosplay, a Secret Service player? Or does he really have a health condition? And the thing is, he really did have a health condition. Did that cause it? It doesn't appear like it because, again, he was suspended. So, the investigation was done by that duty captain. They wouldn't make the determination for the arrest. That's on the state troopers. That's on the feds to make that determination. But I'm saying anyway, Marlon doesn't agree, but I'm saying that I believe that the feds were convinced to not do this by the police department, because even though he worked with the feds, he's a nobody, dude. Like when you do these details and you're doing presidential details, they don't know everybody, bro. And then when you elevate it to a boss level, like I said, there's no way that I'm not bringing him back in an interrogation room. There's no way. There's no way I'm not disarming him. There's no way he's not being handcuffed. There's no way an arrest doesn't happen. If I'm the supervisor there, it doesn't happen. Oh, the upper echelon of the NYPD called me. Oh, how many times have you guys been sued? You guys aren't even credible on the stand. Oh, you don't even have federal clearance yourself. Oh yeah. We'll let you know. We'll let you know when we release them. You guys could wait outside over here. Click. Like I'm saying, I don't see it. So like that's I don't. No point to argue that, but it really is high level. So ultimately, what do you guys think is going to happen to him? He's suspended 30 days. Is he going to be terminated? Is he going to have a heavy punishment? Is he going to have a light punishment? Steve said he believes that at some point he could possibly even be promoted to first grade. Like, what do you guys think about that?
So, I think that you're actually right. To clarify, we never, collectively, we never said that we believe that his mental condition is part of this. It was rumored to be that he was out sick and rumored to be, and I've heard, numerous people have contacted me and said that he's going through some type of episode. And these are all credible, but rumored sources at the same point. I think on the surface level with this incident, it's kind of goofy, right? It's kind of goofy, right? You could look at it in two different ways. It sounds kind of goofy. It's an NYPD cop that, maybe kind of a groupie. He wants to be at this golf club. He decided to put on some gear, just to like blend in. It sounds goofy on the surface, but if you go below the surface, I think this is a huge negative PR event for the NYPD on a national and global level. It's much more serious for other people looking at this. We all understand the civil lines of the NYPD. We were all part of the NYPD, and we know that goofy things happen. But if you're an outsider looking at this, it's not so goofy. It sounds pretty serious. Wow. An NYPD detective, a second grader with access to separate credentials for federal task force, also information that he could get on through the department intranet. The access that this detective has and his presence there could be extremely alarming, especially the high level threat that we're at right now. So on one end, it's kind of goofy. On one end, it could be very serious. And I said earlier, John, Marlon, same thing. I said that I believe that he's part of tier 2. And I believe if he was general population, we would hear much more of this as far as a PR event publicly. And I do believe that the discipline would be very serious. Again, this is high level. It's not that far after the assassination of Charlie Kirk and also 2 attempted assassinations on Donald Trump. It's very serious that a police officer would be there. I mean, honestly, we talked about this. If you had to think about it, would we put on some type of a quasi-uniform to attend an event off duty? Absolutely not. We wouldn't even dream of it. So just think about how the department has changed, the control, the discipline, the system that was in place, and the leadership that we had. None of us would even dream of it. You wouldn't even think about it. You didn't even want to go to a bar that could potentially be a problem or an issue. We're talking about an off-duty police officer wearing a quasi-type uniform, pretending to be Trump security at an event, after the recent events that we've had. This is pretty damn serious when you look at it in that manner. So I think there's no doubt in my mind, as I said, a duty captain would immediately respond. Maybe even a duty chief because of the nature of the event. So there's definitely communication. I do not think he's going to be terminated. I think we already seen the cards. It was already a light hit. I think they're going to hopefully wait for time to pass by. That's what the NYPD does before this goes away. And once this goes away, or not necessarily goes away, but it's not the topic of conversation, they'll administer a small slap on the wrist and he'll be back to work. And I agree with Steve. At some point, he'll be first grade detective within the next couple of years. I mean, if you could cheat on your taxes and you can be involved in a questionable shooting, you could allegedly become the chief of department. I love that word, allegedly. Don't you, John? You could allegedly become the chief of department in the NYPD if you're allegedly involved in a questionable shooting and allegedly cheated on your taxes. So why would this not be any different? So there's no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Shout out to you, Steve. He will eventually be promoted to first grade detective. It's going to be a light hit. This is going to be a drive-by with discipline, and he'll be back. He's not general population. He's tier 2. That's a big deal in this administration.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But to go back on it, I think he should be terminated. Why? Because who does that? Who goes in uniform, off duty while out sick, and then when you get caught, you go, "Oh yeah, I was on the detail." If it was me, I would have tried to tin my way in, plain clothes, whatever. But if I was out sick, I wouldn't even have gone at all. Because you're out sick. You're supposed to be home, right? And then your off-duty hours, you could go out to go buy groceries or whatever needs that you need, essentials that you need, and you go back home because you're homesick. You have a heart condition, that's what you're homesick for. Stay home. And then you're talking about how it's going to affect his mental situation. If that's the case, then you shouldn't be on the job. If this is going to affect your mental situation to the point where you could think that you could go off duty in partial uniform, tactical gear, buffed out to the president's presidential event, and then claim to be on his security detail while armed, what is your mental capacity, doing when you're on the job, on the clock? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's bad leadership. It's really bad leadership right now because you look at it. The girl's transferring herself from the 4-4 to another precinct. Who does that? You wouldn't even have thought of that in back in the day. Like, John, would you ever have thought, you know what? I'm gonna just transfer myself to Staten Island. I don't want to be in IUB no more. I'm just gonna get out of here. Like if I was in BCB when I was jammed up in BCB, I imagine me walking out and be like, yeah, I'm gonna. They told me to give me my guns back, and I'm going back to the 109.
I mean, I wouldn't even change myself in the same precinct. I was a boss. I would, without getting
right,
call the CO or the XO, like, yo, bro, I can do whatever. I wouldn't just take it upon myself to do things like that. And I was a lieutenant, even as a sergeant. And I was trusted to do things like that. And I would still be like, hey, I gotta, me and my guys were coming in this time, whatever it is. I wouldn't just take it upon myself to, within the same precinct, even change my hours. You know what I mean? Absolutely ridiculous. Listen, we kind of beat that one up a little bit. Real quick, a friend of mine, daughter's missing. Last seen this Wednesday from Kings Highway train station. She's already reported it to 911. Haley Ikaloff. Last seen in front of Kings Highway train station 10/1/25 at 3 p.m. wearing a black shirt, black pants, black hoodie. She's 4'11", has brown hair. If anybody sees her, please call 929-816-1727 or report it to the nearest police station. She's already been reported as a missing. Mother's obviously worried sick. So if any of you guys see her or recognize her or thought you've seen her, please refer back to this and give the mom a call. So
yeah. But before we go on, John, not to beat this into the ground, but the thing is, that's parents, you should put those tags, those Apple tags, those tracking tags. You put them on your kids in their book bag or in their shoe, and just in case, But yeah, not to beat this into the ground, but I when I was in Intel, I did the US Open, And I remember one day, Chief Iglesias came to watch the game. You know, he didn't have a ticket or anything. He just went to the ID trailer, got his ID. You know, he got his ID through another guy who worked there. Guy gave him his ID, and he just walked right in. You know, he said hello to security, walked right in, and the job has like a $10,000 booth that they get to use because of the I believe it's through the police foundation. One of these corporations owns it. But my point in saying that is, if you know the right people, you can get into these things. Now there's a certain degree that especially with the president being there, you're not going to cross over. Okay, you're just not going to go there. But if he had to deal with the uniformed Secret Service, they're kind of different from the uniform Secret Service police. They're kind of different from the guys who wear the suits and ties. Okay, so I have what I think is that this has been going on for quite a while, and I don't think he's the only one who's ever done that, because nobody just thinks to themselves, "Oh, let me try and get into the Ryder Cup." Okay, now I think this is the first year the Ryder Cup is being held in at that location, but I'm sure he's probably gotten into that facility to watch the U.S. Open before. Okay, so I don't think he just thought of this idea on his own. And again, if to Steve's point, he should be demoted for being stupid. Okay, and I tell you why. If you threw on a suit, you might have just you could have probably gotten a lot further than going in there with tactical gear. Okay, just wear a suit. Wear a suit like if you're on a protection detail. On a dignitary detail. You'd have gotten a lot further than running around like your crime at a
quasi crime.
Good point. I mean, it changes the scenario a lot, though, dude. It does. Like, if you go in there with a suit and they're like, "Oh, this guy snuck in," the bells aren't going off, dude. It's like, no, This guy came in with body armor on, ready to go to war. Like it's a Call of Duty outfit. Like, and like.
No, also though, now we gotta also question, who did he bring? Did he go by himself? Because he probably brought some friends or whatever to bring it in, because if I want to watch the Ryder Cup, if I'm a big golf fan, I'll just watch it on TV. It's a better view. I get to stay home, have a beer, kick my feet up, But now you're at the event. Maybe he brought some people that want to go, Maybe he brought like some rich people that he knew or whatever. Because that's what I'll be honest. I don't want to downplay my Asian people, right? My Asian cops and stuff like that. But a lot of Asian cops, they get called for favors from people with money and stuff like that, right? And they're like, "Oh, the Ryder Cup, I'm a golf fan. Can you bring me my family that came in from China? Can you bring them around? Show them that they kind of give them the VIP experience, And he probably did that. And then they just should probably just walked away, okay, keep it on the side. Don't let nobody know about it. Just keep it as him coming here, sneaking in and whatever, by himself. So now you got to question all this other stuff. Who else did you bring? And especially with all this national security against China now, if you're bringing in nationals from China, I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just speculating, right? If you're bringing in nationals from China now, you're bringing in further security breach. Can you imagine that? Come on.
You know what, Steve? That's why I brought up that point. And that's a great point that you brought up, right? Do we know if this is some type of CCP operation? We don't. That's why I said on one end, you look at it, right? I'm sure a lot of active cops in the NYPD, not to their fault, not saying they're not intelligible, but they may be looking at this as some kind of goofy event, not really looking at the underlinings of how this may be perceived from an actual Trump security detail or from other entities, especially in light of what's going on. We're talking about something that could be global PR, right? Negative PR for the NYPD. This is a serious issue. But at the same time, let's be honest. How do we get to this point? You got some balls, man. You're an NYPD cop. You dress up like a clown in that stupid uniform, that quasi-crime uniform, and you go to this event off duty, and then you say that you're part of the Secret Service team. I mean, how far do we get? I remember the times, I guess it doesn't happen anymore, where you could leave $100 bill on the hallway between two locker rooms and come back from 2 weeks vacation, it would still be there. People were afraid to do anything. I mean, but clearly it's gone. That's why I say this is a 3-tier system. I mean, I speak to quite a few cops. I'll keep them anonymous at a tier 3, and they still have the arm of discipline. But the people that are in the right connections, I mean, clearly you got some balls. None of us would even dream to think about that. One, probably even just going to the event, we would want to be on our P's and Q's, even if we had tickets for it. You don't even want anyone to know you're an NYPD police officer. This guy's in a quasi-type uniform. That's why it's a great point. At least if you wear a suit, it's a little more professional and more incognito. But just how brazen to have some balls like that. Are you serious, man? Like, we have lost it. We have lost it. Listen, I can tell you right now, I followed all the rules, right? The only rule I didn't follow was, and I tell you right now, I say this all the time, I always went out of borough to eat, almost all the time, because I worked in the South Bronx and I eat healthy. So I got to get something. So I would always go out of borough, grab something, come back, eat something healthy. But am I going to an event with some quasi-type uniform and off duty and saying that I'm security? Hell no. That's crazy. Especially with the Secret Service. I don't even right now with the stigma, I think they could care less your NYPD. And John, Marlon, and Steve, they don't care. And I get it, you're talking about the Asian society and they may want favors from Asians, but clearly we can see this is not a DEI thing, right? Because look at the difference, the way you were treated and the way he's treated. It comes down to their connections. And being the president of the Asian Jade Society, he's got a lot of connections. We know damn well that party that they have every year crossing the 5th precinct with the Asian Jade Society, everybody goes to that. Every fraternal organization, that's probably the biggest fraternal event in the entire city. You guys know what I'm talking about? Across the 5th precinct, every year the Asian Jade gets together.
I used to go. Yeah, I know. I would go to the Asian Jade.
Yeah, that restaurant's not closed down though. The restaurant's not closed down. They now do the restaurant in New World Mall. The same people that Straw them to Adams, New World Mall in Flushing and Queens.
Oh yeah, the ones that all their employees, they didn't know they donated to Adams, but someone miraculously
I gotta ask Mike Smith. He worked at the 5th precinct. I bet he walked right across the street. He must have went to that party.
Yeah, it's No, listen. I think we beat it up. But at the end of the day, bro, president's in, the jocks open, joint operation control center. Right, everybody's there. This comes over as an active shooter event, possible active shooter. I mean, like, you don't put the cat back in the bag after that. Like, it's hard to break out of that. So 100% special treatment. It's without a doubt. So. We've been getting trolled by this account. What the hell's the name of it? The account's Mikey Bones 313. We also get trolled by a Frankie Farillo, by a Dean Lewis. I mean, there's just so many that I can't even name them all. There's just all cops are complainers. And, I have a strong feeling that it is a member of the upper echelon, a fat-bodied individual who more than likely is a politically appointed member of the NYPD just because of the way they talk. So normally it's just trolling and it's this, but this one seems like a drunken stupor, and it's like a multifaceted message, and it kind of makes me think that there was some nefarious undertone in here. So Mikey Bones responds to Sal. Sal put out a post about, I don't know, I think about the show that I did with him yesterday. And then this pops up and he says, and I didn't really get time to talk about this yesterday because I had to jump off. But what he says is, I don't know, Sal, but allegedly might be tardy. Now, I know that the upper echelon of the NYPD tries to say that we use allegedly and then lie. No, we talk about what to be rumors, what our opinion is, and allegedly what we heard. I mean, I often don't use the word allegedly that much until now. I'm going to start using it just to piss them off. But so he says allegedly might be tardy. Why would Sal allegedly be tardy? Meaning, Sal, you're going to be late to that show. Why is Sal going to be late to that show? I'm told people in this administration have the receipt about you and your friends, about your and friends. I mean, obviously, you could tell why they got promoted up high in this administration. Can't spell, but let's pretend like this guy actually could spell. He would have wrote about you and your friends statement in the past. Don't answer your door and tell Sanders be ready. You heard it here. So, you know, people say, oh, it sounds like they're going to sue you for defamation. Good luck. We look forward to that because I'm going to get access to all of your phones, your numerous phones, your emails, your social media accounts, and everything else through Discovery. And all of it will be made publicly available for all of the other people who are suing you. And we will gladly hand it over to all of their attorneys and everybody else. So good luck doing that. But that's not what this was here. That's not what this was here. Don't know, Sal, but allegedly you might be tardy. Don't answer your door and tell Sanders be ready. I'm sorry. That is a threat. We've had our lives threatened so many times that I'm disgusted by it. I honestly can't take it anymore. It really annoys me. What annoys me is the fact that we're sitting here, we're having this conversation about this moron who walks into a ticketed event when the president's there, dressed up like he's Secret Service, right? And you know what? And at least he's held accountable somewhat for his actions. But we have complete fools. We have complete fools in the NYPD running the NYPD right now, threatened our children's lives, sent known criminals after us, gave our information out, and they're held totally unaccountable while trolling us daily on this. Here's another one. Daily. This loser is on every show we do. Who the hell has time to sit here live with us all the time, every day, unless you're being paid, unless you're on the on-duty booty for overtime code, unless you're on the code to go sneak into the Ryder event and pretend you're on Trump's security detail? This is what this is. This is what this is. And so, yeah, so for your little threats of defamation, bring it on. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I just want to say someone thought it was smart to send us a threat. We won't be intimidated, brother. We know the inner lines of law enforcement. We've been there. We weren't afraid then. We're not afraid now. We ain't going anywhere. But if you want to subpoena me, good luck finding my RV, brother. Good luck finding me. But I know you have my address anyway. I don't know who it is. It could be maybe somebody that has a fat triple neck. Could be. I don't know who it is. Could be someone from the upper echelon that looks like their belly hangs over their waist. I don't know. You guys know who it is. You know who it is. Juju says it. Juju says here that we're trolling the upper echelon. You expect them not to respond. Listen, keep it coming. You want discovery? Let's do it. Let's get your emails. Let's get my emails. Let's get John's and Marlon's. I'm sure they're a lot different. Let's get our phone conversations. You know what the difference is? I hope. You know what? I hope the NYPD has my phone tapped because they must be like, damn, John, Marlon, Eric, and Sal, Ron, and Rob, they have the same conversations on camera that they do on the phone. But if we were to get the upper echelon's phone and see their conversations, I'm sure they're quite different, right? What do we say, John? Maggot in the sheets, right? But woke in the streets. We're sure their conversations are much different. And I love to also get the discovery and how many times you, the upper echelon, or anyone that was trolling us, which we believe is the upper echelon. I'm sure it is. If I had to put my money on it, allegedly. By the way, I love the word allegedly. Thank you very much. If that's the case, we'll find out. The truth comes out. What happens in the dark comes out in light. But we're not going anywhere. We're going to keep giving our opinion. You'll be gone when Eric Adams is gone. And guess what? We'll still be here.
That'll be their only 15 minutes of fame before they go off into obscurity and no one even looks at them in the street or yells shit at them from across the street. So I mean, you know, the thing is like the trolling the upper echelon. I just want to remind everybody, we never started it. They started it. Every time we ever put out a meme or anything else, it was in response. It was a reaction to what they were doing, including last night. There was no trolling here last night either when I put this message out, because this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that allegedly John Shell but I don't know. I don't know because I reached right out to the source. Is this a problem? Is this defamation of character, John? No, you've had enough defamation yourself. When I tweeted to him last night, any truth to the rumors that allegedly your office is being packed up and tomorrow you're hanging it up, John Shell? What's the matter? Can't answer a question, bro? So that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. And you know what? My other problem is I've put in a FOIA for the IAB case that IAB Group 1 absolutely mangled. And I'm never going to get that case. I want that case. Right now, I'm not going to get it until after the mayoral election, supposedly before the next stump. Why am I not able to see that I made numerous allegations about numerous individuals, name them, put the specific allegations with irrefutable proof on their names, and they were miraculously removed from that case? Like, why am I not able to see any of that stuff? Why am I not able? All I get is that all the charges were substantiated. All the officers, we just want to inform you, like some stupid ass letter. So, Steve, what do you think about that? Like reading that thing from an outside, and feel free to tell us whatever you think. Do you believe that that's a threat of a lawsuit, or do you believe there was something else behind that?
The don't answer your door part, yeah, that's absolutely a threat. Don't answer your door, that's absolutely a threat. Why wouldn't I want to answer my door unless you're saying that my life will be in danger and I'll be tardy to the show because I won't make the show? That's absolutely a threat. I absolutely see that as a threat. Absolutely. And for your FOIA request, good luck on that. I mean, I have
yeah, we've been stonewalled, brother. We've been stonewalled, man.
Yeah, I have Jack Jaskrin. Jack Jaskrin is a retired captain, and he's a lawyer now working with John Scola, and he's been putting in a FOIA request. I've been in courts trying to get my FOIA for my undercover work and stuff like that for over 3 years now, and the only things they've been giving me is files from before I was undercover, before I went to 109, showing that there were an investigation on these cops that I investigated way before I got there, right? And they couldn't find anything, and they had to turn the case over to the group that I was working with because I was undercover. And then they gave me, after my undercover work in 2020, and it's basically my campaign stuff, and they're showing that, oh, look, he's violating campaign laws and stuff like that, which is bullshit because I got straight permission from the mayor. I wrote a letter and I got permission from the mayor granting that I was able to run. And then they showed my arrest stuff. And it's basically saying, oh, look, here's the stuff that you wanted, your arrest paperwork and all that stuff. Yeah, I got that stuff from Discovery, big guy. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't need that. I want my undercover work showing that, I have recordings of these higher ups and chiefs and stuff like that, and you guys squashed it. But this is absolutely a threat. 1,000%. 1,000%. I think this is definitely a lawsuit, But
yeah,
as they get away with it. No, go ahead. I'm sorry, Marlon. Go ahead.
No, finish. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I'm finished. Go ahead.
Oh, everybody here's such a nice guy.
Yeah. It's absolutely a threat. It's a threat, and it's a veiled threat, and whoever it is you can sense like a little bit of that animosity whoever is behind this handle. But we should expect that now, because the thing is, these guys, the only avenue to getting at them, is by openly discussing the problems that they bring to the job and their incompetence. Because as Steve just said, you try to put in a FOIA request, and it's going to be held up for years. I can tell you that too, because I have ones that are 3 years now, going on 4 years now.
That's insane.
And they're never going to give that to you. And what have we talked about the legal system now? It's a mess. And you can just tell from the status of me and John's case and all the others who were forced out for this vax nonsense. It's a mess. But you see, the thing is, these guys, they make, some of them make over, close to 300K a year. But you know what? Nobody tells them that they're wrong. Nobody tells them that they're incompetent. Okay. So when you come on here, and when you're a public face, and you're openly criticizing them and telling them, and telling them that what they're doing is hurting the job, and they're incompetent, it hurts their egos, and they hate that, so that what we're seeing is the natural their natural response to it, and I have no doubt that regardless of whoever's in the mayor's office, I mean, I don't think it'll happen so much under Curtis, because I think Curtis will bring back a discipline. But I have no doubt if Mamdani or Cuomo is there, we're gonna get the same things. We're gonna get the same reaction, the same veiled threats online, because again, nobody tells them they're wrong.
Yeah, I just want to say, great comment by Rob No Cash, Finest Unfiltered family. Great point. It really adds to the conversation. It moves this conversation forward and solidifies that is an actual threat. Great point, Rob Lukash. How can he serve you with a lawsuit if you don't answer the door, right? What does that threat say? It says, don't answer the door. We're coming for you, right? But Rob Lukash is exactly right. If you're serving someone a lawsuit, you want them at the door. You don't want them to avoid the door, which shows it was a complete threat. Now what they're doing is damage control. I just want to tell the trolls this. My hand doesn't shake. Just like you see in The Departed, we don't shake from these threats. Send your lawsuits. Send them. No problem. Let's get the discovery. Let's get it.
Yeah.
We don't shake.
And after they're done, when we're coming for the lawyer fees, I'm serving you myself. I'm going to be knocking on
Exactly.
your door, because I'm not a coward and you are. So that's the difference. That's the difference between us. I'm going to say, hey, how you doing? Here, could you serve this? All right. Thank you. Have a great day. See you later. All right. Yeah. Hope all's well. Right.
Another thing about the FOIL request, I think, is done strategically, where they don't want to serve you. They don't want to give you the material right away. They're going to wait after 3 years, because then it'll be past statute of limitations, where you can use those FOIL request information to file the lawsuit. Because like a lot of times with my stuff, like I try to file the lawsuit, they're like, oh, you don't really have enough to file anything. And then when I get the FOIL request, it's like, here you go. And then it's like, oh, it's past statute of limitations. You can't do it anymore.
Yeah. So. Look at Juju's comment here. The process of buying podcast mics should be as rigorous as obtaining a firearm license. Well, considering we've all have firearm licenses, I mean, I think that you could. I think that I think the statement's absolutely ridiculous, because every human being on God green earth is allowed to give their opinion and speak their mind. But we have men. Well, we have people who were born as men. I don't know what we could consider them now at this point, who sit there and they swear an oath before God to uphold the Constitution of the United States, which says that they believe in freedom of speech. So anybody on God's green earth could buy a microphone, but only a few people on God's green earth that Juju going to sit there and listen to all day. Right? So it's up to you. Nobody's telling anybody to come and listen to this. But the thing is, we're speaking our opinions. And most of our opinions are the opinions of the overwhelming majority of the rank and file of the NYPD, the overwhelming majority of those in the media, the overwhelming majority of those who live in New York City, and the overwhelming majority of those who are looking in from the outside. What are we saying? You're incompetent. That's clear as day. You don't deserve to be there. Clear as day. You have destroyed the NYPD. There are more people who have retired, resigned, or vested under this administration than any administration in other history. True. More corruption in this administration than any other administration in history. True. More turnover in this administration than any other administration in history. True. Right? All of these things that we're saying are the truth. But if they weren't, you wouldn't be here, Juju. We wouldn't be receiving threats. Our kids' lives wouldn't have been threatened. You wouldn't have had to do dances when the media is calling you, asking why people were allowed to send death threats over the internet, and the NYPD decided to do nothing about it with an active cop, right? But listen, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So let's welcome it in. Let's bring it all in. Let's get it out there. I've been on the stand many times. And unlike the majority of you, I was never found to be not trustworthy. So it'll be an interesting court battle. And it's one that I honestly, I sit there and in the morning when I pray for your souls and I pray for you guys, I pray for forgiveness for you. And I pray that this earth becomes a better place. This is one of the things I will be praying for now. Give me my day on the stand. Let's bring in the light. Let's open the windows. Let's get all the information out there and show exactly who you guys were this last 4 years when you were in positions that you absolutely don't deserve to be, and proved that this is why people need to not be placed by nepotism, but by competence.
You know what, John? It's a great comment by Juju. You know why? Because it actually connects the bigger themes that we've been talking about. So the mouthpiece, the mic is more powerful than the firearm. That's what they're telling you. That everything we've been saying is so accurate, it's so dead on, that it's damaging to the NYPD. It's damaging to the image of the upper echelon. It's damaging to the trolls that are behind this, because our voices are powerful. Our voices are powerful because what we're saying is a reflection and a mirror image of what's going on inside the department with the rank and file. It's bouncing off the walls of the locker room, and you hear it on both ends. You hear it inside the locker room, and you now hear it on these podcasts. You hear it on this network because it's the truth. And the truth is what hurts, because if it was a lie, you wouldn't be listening and you wouldn't care. So the First Amendment is the most powerful thing. That's further proof. Thank you, Juju. That's an awesome comment. That we must fight hard to maintain the First Amendment and Second Amendment. Are they God-given rights? Yes, but they're God-given rights that good men, masculine men, have to fight to keep these amendments, because it's the Jujus of the world who are scared of what people say, scared of the truth. And he's right. The bullet of the First Amendment speech is more damaging than the firearm, because they can't get the ringing out of their ears. All they hear all day is the truth, and it hurts them. They have to live a lie. So you know what, Juju? You have to lay down at night and you have to look at the ceiling and know that you live in a lie. But we don't have to feel that way. So if you want to service with papers, bring it on. Just all I ask is, if you do it in Manhattan, try to find me a nice location I can park my RV. You guys can come in and hang out. I'm making coffee. I can't wait. I would love to get served in my RV. I'd be laughing. You guys actually found me?
Yeah, I think they respond because they're threatened. They feel threatened. They're scared. And I think that's why they respond. Think about it. The old administration, Kelly's administration, they would never have responded to anything online. They would never have responded to anything in the newspaper or whatever. Like they would just ignore it, because it didn't bother them. But this administration, they're scared. Well, bring up another thing. I don't know if you guys are going to talk about it, but I hear that that Adam's side chick that wrote the book. I heard that she actually was given a job for $160,000 a year in Adam's administration for like what was it? Sports something liaison.
Yep, he made up a job for a side piece, and we paid $160,000 for a side piece. So this book, I was actually sorry, I clicked the thing while you were talking, but I was just checking my email today to see if I got the book. I think that it's coming out today. He has a little trailer for her book. Jasmine Ray, you could go over to Instagram, and it's going to be an audio book. I pre-ordered it. I think it was only like $10. So I'm waiting to see when I get that, because I've never looked forward to an audiobook before ever. This is the first time ever. So shout out to you, Jasmine. Here's the trailer for the audiobook.
What would you do if love came with shadows?
Hello, I'm Eric.
Hi, Eric. I'm Jasmine.
One woman must navigate the dangerous space between loyalty and betrayal.
Political humanity. What you gonna do? Love and power, truth comes through. Shadows of betrayal. Legacies call. Standing tall when the wall falls.
Tonight we start with the controversial investigation of the mayor.
What would you do?
I don't know, bro. I'm looking forward to this one. That was
what's funny?
Trailer, but I'm still looking forward to it.
You know what's funny, Steve? That you said, you heard she had this a job offer for over $400,000. Could you imagine? Could you imagine they gave some guy? I heard they gave some guy a job as the deputy mayor of public safety to make content creation. Some guy that has zero responsibility. What's his name again? Didn't they give some guy a job to make YouTube videos?
Juju? Oh wait, sorry, Kaz. You mean Kaz?
I'm looking forward to the book too.
That trailer looked like a scene out of Power, like the TV series. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
I was waiting. I was waiting for Ghost to come out.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
What do you think, Marlon? I mean, I would have been Adam's side, 160K a year for a job in City Hall, being a sports director.
Yeah. Well. Also, didn't she run a NGO or community or organization? You know, I'm sure she got even more money from the city from it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So she, according to See Through NY, she made like 160K last year. Yeah. So that we've talked a lot about it on the show about the Cash for Ass program, and now you know, guys. Now you know where it came from. It didn't just come from the top of NYPD. It's citywide, and
that's not allegedly.
Yeah. So of course he had no problem with Madry doing it because he was doing it himself. Okay.
Well, what do we say every time, right? When something fails in the NYPD or any administration under Eric Adams, point to Eric Adams, right? Because it's the leadership. You know what? But all kidding aside, I've always said, and I really believe this, like Eric Adams is a Norwegian rat. He could survive anything. But it does beg the question now, is this the coming of this book and the PR of this book and what is about to come? Is this his demise? Is this the reason why Eric Adams decided to drop out of the election? That's what I'm curious about. If it's true, then it goes back to the old saying, right? That, you know, you could pretty much survive anything, but, you know, a woman has the power to take a man down. So I'm curious if this is the reason. Steve, Ball, and John, what do you guys think? Do you think this is the reason he stepped down? I mean, the timing seems impeccable. I was so surprised that Eric Adams stepped down. It could be.
No. I think she released the book because he stepped down.
Exactly.
I think she wasn't allowed. She was stopped by Adams. He told her not to release it. You know, wait until I get out or whatever, and then you can do whatever you want.
Like simultaneously. So it could be either way.
I think she's going to defend him in the book. I didn't get it yet, but I think she's going to defend him. I think that this is a publicity stunt. I think Steve's 100% right. Yeah. I don't think you're going to get the juicy details that we think we're going to get.
When you watch a trailer, she talks about betrayal. So
betrayal of who? To who? Maybe she's going to say, I think she's going to say people betrayed Eric Adams. The media betrayed. They didn't tell his story.
Well, the betrayal also is Adams has a girlfriend, right? Remember, right? Adams has an older girlfriend, and she's the side piece, you know? Yeah. So it may be the betrayal between the relationship. But I think Adams stepped down because Trump told him to. 1,000%. It was because Trump was like, listen, look, I did you a favor. Now it's time to repay it.
No, Adams stepped down the same reason he jumped out of the Democratic primary. Is because he knew that if he would have stayed, he would have got like 1% of the vote. He would have had a little bit more than Jim Walden, but not much. So he would have had about that many votes, and that's why he stepped down. Like he knew he had zero shot, and he didn't want to be embarrassed. So instead, he's going to just say that the press didn't tell my story. You know, all this nonsense. You know, and so like I think the books, honestly, here's my take on it. I didn't even read it yet. I'm sure I'm going to be highly disappointed. It was meant to sell things. This is a total huge publicity stunt, and I don't think you're going to see the details that people think they're going to see. And I think the betrayal that are going to be talked about are going to be a betrayal against him. I don't think it's going to be the betrayal against anything else. I don't think there's going to be anything really in there, honestly. So I feel like my $10 that'll probably be not a good $10 spent, but whatever.
No, I think it's a great point. I just think that I mean, maybe it's clickbait. Maybe it's clickbait because I saw the trailer and the way that it's set up, it makes the viewer think that, okay, that maybe Eric Adams is the one that betrayed her, maybe some type of love triangle. But at the same token, there hasn't been too much PR on it of what's inside that book. You have to think that there would be more rumors, especially with this administration, as far as the content of that book. So I do think it might be a letdown and disappointment. Paul, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to say that he didn't step down because Trump told him to. He stepped down because President Netanyahu told him to, or rather told him,
Ooh.
I can't help you on this, kid. You know, there's nothing I can do for you. Because think of it. Didn't you see Netanyahu on early on Friday or Thursday? What day was it? September 26th, when the UN held its session. But and he was in attendance for Netanyahu's speech, you know. Then hours later on, we hear he's dropping out. So I think Netanyahu was his last ditch. And remember, also there was an interview a couple of weeks ago where he talked about the Jewish community, and even before then, he said September that he mentioned his campaign was going to ramp up in September. I think he was hoping that Netanyahu would get in Trump's ear, or whoever the power brokers at the top, and tell them maybe put pressure on Cuomo to leave. But I think what happened is he went to Netanyahu, and Netanyahu told him, "Sorry, kid, I can't do anything for you." And then, there's nothing left to do at that point. But I'm also going to agree with Steve that I don't think she put out. I don't think the book forced Erica Adams to leave. I think, because think of it, she was already making $150K, plus she had access to the city hall, the city government's coffers for her community organization. Why would she leave? I mean, if anything, we know Eric Adams would have promoted her. She could have been a future deputy commissioner of community affairs for NYPD. Yeah. So why would she leave? That's another $100K promotion right there for doing what? So there was no reason for her to leave, and even more so, if Adams had successfully gotten reelected, who knows where his career might have gone? Okay, maybe he might have decided to run for governor later on. We all know that he had ambitions to run for president one day, and why would she not want to ride his coattails all the way up to the White House? Yeah. So
it'll be the first time in history you have two first ladies. Right.
First side piece. Yeah.
Sorry, I've been having technical issues back here. Sorry about that.
Hey, Steve, in the Asian community, it would be the first lady boy, right?
First lady boy. The first lady boy, yeah. If you were in Thailand.
So look, so what do you guys think? Like, I got a couple of different messages last night that Chief of Department's office was being packed up. Now, we've heard John Shell. There's been rumors, I don't know how many times, that John Shell's retiring. Do you think that today's his last day? What do you guys think?
Nah, I don't think so.
No, I don't. No, at this point, I don't think it's his last day yet. We've heard rumors quite often. I do think that they are preparing right now. I do think that they're in, when I was in the Marine Corps, we used to say you're on the bus, and that means you got 1 foot out the door and you're ready to go. And I think he's on the bus right now. I think he's got 1 foot out the door and they're getting ready, but I don't think it's at this point right now. I think it's probably some point after the election, but I don't think yet. I think they still have a couple more weeks.
I don't think Kaz. I'm sorry, Eric. I don't think Kaz and John's out the door either. They've been preparing on social media and news and stuff like that. They're trying to find a foothold in the next administration, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. He didn't respond. He usually responds right away. So I don't know. I think maybe there's some maybe he doesn't step down today, but I think there's some truth to the rumor that his office was being packed up, because it's weird that he didn't respond.
Absolutely.
And if you guys remember that he was on Sid the other day. I don't know if you guys got a chance to listen to it. I listened to it, and he was like making mention that his run's coming to an end, which he does often, and he throws that bait out there often, and he loves the rumors. Yeah, like I said, he likes the bad press, he likes the negativity. So I find it weird that he wouldn't have let that one brew, or like even threw fuel on the fire. So the fact he didn't say nothing, I don't know. I think there's some truth to it. I think we might see it. See what happens. Could be wrong.
He's definitely preparing, but I think he's going to try to ride it out. He's going to try to ride it out as much as he can, and then try to get a foothold in the next administration. And if he can't stay, then he's going to get his 3/4 and leave.
Well,
Go
ahead, Marlon. Sorry.
No, I was just going to agree. I think they know the Adams is gone. What they know, they're gone. Mamdani, Curtis, they're all going to bring in their own people, you know. So now is they're lame ducks at this point, and I think naturally they're making moves to, you know, for their future.
I think that this is a good lesson to be learned for future upper echelon of leadership of the NYPD. That John Shell, Kaz Daughtry, and this administration, this upper echelon, was so indebted to Eric Adams because they played the political game rather than be apolitical. They've now put them in a situation that if Mamdani is the next mayor, or even Cuomo, or Curtis Lewa, doesn't make a difference. They're all out because they were such in debt and such almost like they worshipped Eric Adams to the point where they were no longer apolitical, just doing their job, that they all have to go because they all can't be trusted. They're boxed into, bowing down to Eric Adams. That no matter what, who wins, there's no room for them to stay, and they created that. So I think that's a good. First of all, they're completely inadequate and incompetent. But aside from that, I think it's a good learning lesson for future leadership of the NYPD that no matter who your mayor is, to do your job apolitical and not get involved with the politics. That's for the police commissioner. That's for the mayoral political legislation, the political body. It's not for you. Your job is to remain apolitical. You're still a uniform member, but we lost that. And so I think that's a great message for future upper echelon of the NYPD.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Juju, nobody's trolling us with this one. We're just, we just got a couple messages about it. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but, he says, remember the last time Shell and Kaz trolled you that believe all Kaz was leaving? We never got hooked. Full disclosure, we'll show you in Discovery, the text messages. Jack Stern got hooked. I literally told everyone, don't respond to this. This is them trying to bait us. They're full of crap. They're going to pull some publicity stunt. It's literally in the text. So we'll get that in Discovery, though, Juju, so you can see that. So you guys, and I was actually saying how terrible you guys are at actually trying to hook people, so you guys didn't hook anybody. So while we're on the topic of John Shell, I think this is another good topic to bring up. So Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, now known as the Secretary of War, comes out and he goes and he gives a speech in front of the Joint Chiefs and he starts talking about fitness level. So I just want to play this clip and get your thoughts if you believe that this is something that the NYPD should adopt.
With physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations or really any formation and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already.
What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, he's right on that. With the NYPD, I think they should definitely be doing that. Absolutely. But that won't pass the DEI standards. So that's the problem. Remember we had when like a couple years after my class, we had a I don't know if the politically correct word. I don't mean to offend anybody, but a midget, right? And she couldn't get over the wall test, right? During the JST, she couldn't get over the wall, and they had to remove everyone from the room, and then they put down stools so that she could have like a step, like a advantage to get over the wall. But here's the thing: when you're out in the field, you think a perp's gonna be like, "Hold on, I'll stop and wait and put down a stool for you while you get over the wall," and then your partner is like way ahead, and now you're left back behind because you can't get over the wall to back up your partner. No, man, it's you're putting lives in danger. I absolutely agree with that. There's just some jobs that you just absolutely need to be fit. You absolutely need to be, straight and narrow, just like airline pilots, right? Would you want to board a plane where you knew that there's a high chance that this airline pilot can't fly the plane? Absolutely not, right? There's just some jobs that you just need people who are qualified. You can't just hire somebody because, it's a politically right thing to do, or because, we feel bad for this certain people, they have a handicap or whatever. Then find a different job.
I can tell you right now, that was one of the most motivating speeches I've ever heard in my entire lifetime, to the point that when I heard it, I sat up in my chair and I was like, wow. It almost, I was ready to, I wanted to, if I was young enough, go back to the Marine Corps or go back to the NYPD or any facet of law enforcement or something high speed, and because it was super motivating. And what I realized by that speech also is this push by the political body on a national level we've had to emasculate the profession, that sometimes things have to hit rock bottom in order to get to the point to get better. It's gotten so bad that the emasculation of the profession makes the strength of it unrecognizable. And for him to say that, you need to be a warrior, it is so true, because we've had this ideology now of being guardians. You need to be a warrior when you're in law enforcement or you're in service. That's what we need. And you could be a gentleman warrior. That means when in times of garrison, you're a warrior, but you're a good. That's why I always made that comparison between the NYPD. We talk about being a nice guy, but are you good? There's a difference. You have to be good. Because if you're good and you're strong, when you're nice to people, it's because you choose to. That is powerful. You're not nice to people because you're a coward and weak and you have to be nice to be sneaky. You want to be strong and because you can be, and good because you can. So, I think it's powerful. Someone put here, join the National Air Guard. Corvette Tony said, use your head, join the Air National Guard. I would love to. I'm far too old at this point. I think 42 is the max, but it was very motivating. And it's fair also. Everyone should be physically fit to your ability and to your age. We don't expect, if you're in the upper echelon of the NYPD and you're 60 years old, I don't expect that 60-year-old man to do the same thing as a brand new 22-year-old police officer at the NYPD. I expect to be the most fit you can be and the most qualified for someone that's 60 years old. I don't expect someone who's 60 years old to run a mile and a half in 12 minutes. Maybe it's 20 minutes, but the point is that they're doing something to maintain a level of fitness and a standard. And the standards, yes, they're going to be different by age, but there should be standards because those standards show a level of preparation and a level of readiness.
Yeah, it's just common sense, right? Like if you were a farmer and you had sheep and you had a choice between a sheepdog and a chihuahua, which one would you choose to guard your sheep from the wolves?
Well, what do you think? Like, so there's a lot of factors here, right? One, I agree with you that if you are rank and file officer, 100%, you should be able to bend over and tie your shoes. I mean, like, you should be able to walk up a flight of stairs, right? Like, that's not. I don't think these are like crazy things to expect from somebody. But what about when you are a 60-year-old man and you're the chief of department and you're completely out of shape and you're completely overweight? Like, is it acceptable, or should people be removed even though they're older at that point and heavy set? Because the argument's going to be with the executives is, well, we don't really do the job anymore. We just oversee it. We put the plays together. They run the plays. I'm leaning with Pete Hegseth that there should be a standard that, like, because I do believe that leadership sets the tone for everybody else. And I think that if we want people to grow as they grow in age, because there are going to be some cops that stay on, there's going to be some detectives that are going to leave at 60. So why are we holding them accountable, but we're not holding the leadership accountable to that same standard? And if we expect there to be a tone in the department for officers to be able to bend over and tie their shoes, I'm not talking crazy stuff here, people. I'm not talking about running a marathon. I'm not talking about being able to do 30, 40 pull-ups. I'm not talking about being able to do a few hundred push-ups. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm not talking about even being like weak-bodied like Zohran and be able to bench press 135. I'm talking about basic level stuff. Tie your shoes, get up, look fit in uniform. Not look fit, but look healthy in uniform. Don't like cheer out of your uniform. Do you think it's unreasonable to ask executives and people who are now elderly up to also be physically fit?
Steve,
Well,
you want to go first?
Yeah, well, think about it, right? Like if you're doing it every 2 years, you're gonna be fit, even in your old age. I see people in like Asians in the park, like like Chinese grandpas doing pull-ups and they got like 12 packs. They're more fit than I am. Like why can't NYPD police officers who do this for a living, who need to be fit to survive for a living, to be fit? Yeah. It's for your own benefits. Yeah. And maybe people will be able to enjoy their retirement even more instead of dying like after 3 years.
I think that the standards have to be met for a 60-year-old person, and the standards have to be fair of what we expect for someone 60. Yes, several people have said in the chat, you're absolutely right for the conversation. Rob Lukash said it. Jerry said it. You're 100% right. You have to set and lead the example. For one, if you're the chief of department or a high-ranking member of the NYPD or any agency, yes, you're not doing the job in the same facet that some patrol cop is, but to honor the rank and file, because respect works two ways. It's a two-way street. In order to set the example for leadership and have respect and integrity within the entire department, the leadership sets the example. So to honor the rank and file, you have to maintain a standard as well. And what does that standard also represent? It also represents if you're a chief of department or higher upper echelon of the NYPD per se, it also shows real level of discipline and commitment to the mission. If you can't control what you put in your mouth, you can't control your weight, you don't care about your physical fitness, are you ready and prepared for even just the stamina for a long meeting? Will you care? Because that level of physical fitness corresponds, it correlates to your mental health also and your ability. So if we're sitting in a 2-hour, 3-hour meeting and you're not physically prepared, that will change the stamina that you have for that meeting. And you have to set the example. There has to be a standard. There's no doubt in my mind to honor that rank and file. But how do we know? How do we trust someone if you can't control what they put in their mouth? They can't control how they don't care how their uniform looks because they don't do the job. That's absolutely ridiculous. If you're telling someone to do a job, you better damn well should be able to do that job yourself. Because God forbid, if the chief of department does respond to a situation and there's a situation that turns chaotic, and God forbid we lost all the cops, well, guess what? That chief of department needs to handle himself to be able to respond. So, yes, they should be fit. I don't want to hear that they don't do the job. If they don't do the job, then they shouldn't be on the job.
The stand was to go through a meeting. Was that a shot at Shell? Caught sleeping through meetings, He can't even do that.
Yeah. I think the Cooper's test kind of makes room for, adjusting based on age. So I think there's no real excuse. Yeah. Okay. Regardless of who you are in the NYPD, you should have to be in shape. I don't care if you're chief of department or you're your admin lieutenant or something. I think you have to look good in the uniform, and especially if you're in a leadership role. If you're asking guys to get in there and do their job as best they can, you damn sure got to look the part, because how you're gonna expect these young guys who I've said before, you see Chell going to the academy and talking to young guys, civilians who had just got into the academy, and asking them to, to get in shape and to, acclimate themselves with police culture. And you yourself are like overweight, So I think you have to look the part in uniform. And just to go back on the Secretary of War. Now, the problem with the NYPD instituting that is that you're gonna get less people, right? And the problem is the NYPD already has a recruiting problem. And if you institute those standards, you're going to get less people. This has to be done gradually. It can't be an overnight thing. I personally would start at the top by saying that if you're not in shape, all right, sorry, but you're not gonna get to be 3-star, or you back down you go, right? But so NYPD has a recruitment problem. So if they institute those standards now, they're gonna get less people. The military doing that now is very curious because they're relying more on, they want to rely more on drone warfare and all these robots and such, and they're relying more on special forces now. So I think I don't think they plan to grow the military. I think they plan to downsize the military. So if they institute these tough rigorous standards again, they're going to get less people, but I don't think they need as many people anymore with their plans for robots and drones. But the NYPD can't do that because we still need the bodies. There's no in terms of law enforcement, the drones and the robots aren't ready yet. It's different from shooting a missile at somebody than a cop coming and de-escalating a situation. Okay, and the other problem I'll say with this is that, unfortunately, I've said before, the scamdemic jab has some consequences for cardiovascular health, and those problems haven't been fully explored yet, and we don't know how bad the situation really is. I suspect 1PP knows full well, and medical division knows full well, but we don't know. And until you cycle through a generation of cops who have that crap going through their bloodstream, it's going to be hard to tell them that they have to, increase their cardiovascular, fitness.
I don't know. See, like, I don't agree that listen, they have a recruitment problem. They have to deal with it. But I think we could all agree that you want quality hires coming in, and you want hires. I mean, like, I'm telling you, I could look at the academy class. I'm like, 3/4, out sick. So, they're going to be chronic Z, like I could look at them and see it. And it's like, you could see the work ethic in them. And like, again, I'm not talking about lifting weights. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about basic health and fitness. Tai Chi is a great example of that. There's a lot of forms of that out. I do, and people that are sitting there saying, I don't have time to work out. Nobody's telling you you have to go to the gym, dude. Like, you could get on the floor, do whatever, do 5 sets of however many push-ups you could do. Do that every day. Do a couple of crunches on the floor, a couple of squats. You're good. You worked out. You do some form of Tai Chi. I do like 10 to 15 minutes a day with my daughter. She's blind. She has low muscle tone. She's unsteady on her feet. And I explain it to her this way. I'm like, look, you're unbalanced. Like you already have low muscle tone. You're already starting backwards. So you have to ensure that each day you're building and you're not deteriorating. I'm like, when you look at somebody and you could see the work that they've put into their body, you could see it. So if you don't put any emphasis on your body's just going to deteriorate over time. Right. And I could look at people and be like, all right, this person's been stagnant for 5 years, for 10 years, for 15 years. I'm like, you don't want to do that, because any form of movement is good movement. Like, I literally see in doing like the dumbest, stupidest exercises, like you see the old people doing Tai Chi, this, stupid things, touching your toes, squatting down, jumping for a few minutes. Boom, 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 boom. Right. I try to jump every day for like a minute, like, I'm not saying do crazy things. These are great improvements, not only to your physical health, to your mental health, to your quality of life, to your mood. You're able to control things. Like, and so I think it really is important. It's not about the aesthetics. Because look, you could look at the people in the park. You go right where the 5 points are, right in Chinatown, right outside of 1PP, where they would all do the Tai Chi, the Chinese, the Asian people. You would see them all do Tai Chi. Not every single one of them is in shape. A lot of them are, but they're in cardiovascular shape, and they're able to move, and they're flexible, and they could walk up the stairs, and they could push the shopping cart, and they could go around. And like, the problem is, you're like, oh, cops die young. Yeah, and a lot of problem with cops dying young is they let themselves deteriorate for 20 years. And that's a long time to let your body deteriorate and not do anything, you know, like, and you just start where you are. And I'm not saying that the NYPD should have crazy standards. I'm not, dude. I'm saying, but there should be some standard. Like, all right, bend down, touch your toes. All right, sit down on the floor, get back up. Sit down in the chair, get back up. Bend down, touch your toes. Jump up for a minute. If you can't do that, like, there's a problem. There needs to be standards. I'm not saying as you get older, your body's going to change, your muscle tone's going to get lower, you're going to develop more body fat in your love handles and your areas. But like, there's got to be some type of standard instituted. It is horrendous. I'm like, you know, again, we're having kids come out of the academy that all we're doing, they're not going to be effective on the streets in New York. They're getting injured on their first job. They're getting injured walking to post. They're getting 3/4 because they walked to post. I mean, we can't have it. And it's got to start at the top down. And someone said it in here. Could you imagine Shell telling people that they have to be fit? And it's a good point. And I think that's I think that's the point that really debunks, well, you know, we're executives and we don't do the job anymore. It's like, yeah, well, you're in uniform and you enforce the policy, you set the tone. You're not going to be able to set the tone. And I'm not saying you can't be fat. You just got to be able to you just got to be able to meet certain criteria.
Well, that was my point right? So I'm a firm believer. I've been saying this for years. You probably heard me say this on the podcast before. I've been saying it forever. Police work is a young man's job. And that's why I say the standard level has to be different. I don't expect a 60-year-old chief of the NYPD to be able to run down a perpetrator down the street as fast as a 22-year-old police officer. Not at all. I expect, if you're in your 20s, I expect those police officers to be at a high level fitness. I expect those police officers to make the time to have a certain fitness level. I expect them to work out in the gym or be involved in training, whether it's jiu-jitsu, boxing, if they want to do yoga. I expect them to have a high level. As you get older, the expectations of that high level, the standard changes. The standard for your age group, you should meet that standard. So if you're 45 years old, you should meet the standard of a high-level 45-year-old if you're doing law enforcement. Doesn't matter if you're administrative or not. If you're wearing that uniform at 45 years old, you should meet the standard for someone that's 45. And if you're 60 years old, and you're right, John, the standard may be at 60 years old, do you have the ability just to have a good appearance in uniform? Are you able to have good dexterity and move around? Are you able to do maybe 15 to 20 push-ups, able to do some sit-ups? Do I expect someone that's 60 years old, after years of working out and years of wearing a uniform and banging around, to be able to do 20 pull-ups? No, they probably have damaged shoulders. They have issues. Their shoulders are much tight. You lose flexibility throughout the years, but I expect each age group to have a standard. And I say this again, policing is a young man's job. We should expect on the street to have men and women in their 20s and 30s. And then as you get older, to fill in more administrative roles or jobs that are not as intense, because the standards do change. But you need to meet the standard. I think that if you meet that standard, it's less likely you'll get sick. It's more euphoric. So we'll have people that are happier, because there is a correlation that if you're working out and you're maintaining a level of fitness, you will have more euphoria. And usually, not always, but most people that work out eat better, because they realize, well, if I'm working out and putting the work in, I might as well look better. And if you eat better and look better, you'll feel better. All these things go together. I think diet is very important, not something that is pressed upon the NYPD. I understand it's tough, especially when you work in specific neighborhoods. Like I said, I worked in the South Bronx. Working at night, good luck getting something that is healthy. So you're forced, unless you brought food with you, and sometimes you're just so busy, you forget you have to go out and burrow somewhere to find something healthy. So that needs to be pushed also. Eat healthy, have a good balanced diet. You have to maintain a level of fitness, and I think you get a better product. So to your point, Marlon, I have to say I don't think that would affect recruitment. Maybe initially, but I think it actually will create a better quality police officer and also healthy competition amongst police officers that maybe, hey, this precinct is going out and they maintain this level of fitness and have a competition with another precinct. So I think that could be a healthy level of competition also.
Yeah, a couple of things. We should be recruiting people that want to do that, that want to be work out, that want to get better their bodies, and it also helps release stress. So a lot of like suicides and stuff like that will help solve that too, because depression, the stress, like it's too rampant nowadays. Where back in the day you didn't really hear about that much of cops killing themselves, but now it's like left and right. You get more than like 10 a year or something like that now. And this helps release the stress, depression. You do release hormones and stuff, and we definitely should be recruiting people that want to do that. They want to better themselves. We're recruiting the wrong people to Marlon. Well, go ahead, Marlon. You want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say that in order for that to happen, we need to, the whole department has to, it's not just a fitness problem. The whole department will have to be very organized. First of all, you're not getting the quality people because they know from other cops that you don't want to work it. We have poor quality of job life. We have a overbearing, draconian discipline system. We have a unfair disciplinary system where those who are closer to the power, the nepotism class, get taken care of, and the plebs, you fend for yourself. Your union doesn't care. So in order for us to get the best people, the most qualified people, we're gonna have to change those things. Because you're a guy who just got out of the military. You've always wanted to join the NYPD. You probably know some guys who are NYPD. They're gonna tell you, hey, don't come here. Okay, where you gonna go? Well, all these police departments are now giving you 5K, 10K bonuses. Why wouldn't you look to them instead of NYPD? Plus you also see how expensive it is to live in New York, and you see the quality of life of living in the city degrading. So again, these are all things that are pointing you towards other agencies. So you're not going to get the guy who just comes out of military healthy, or the guy who leads an active, healthy lifestyle, first of all. And again, like I said, the department doesn't really care about health, because if the department cared about health, they would have listened to the dissenting voices during this pandemic. Because again, if you care about health, you care about naturally boosting your health and other means besides chemicals that you put in your body. And the department doesn't care about that. And one of the reasons the department doesn't care about health, I'll put this out there, is that it's because of pension. Again, they don't want you being healthy and living 3 times longer than your 20-year pension. Hell no, they don't want that. That's more money for the city. That's more healthcare costs, more pension that they have to pay out. That's more pressure on them to maintain that solvency ratio of the pension, and to get that annual, make sure the pension fund gets that annual 7%. Okay, in order to stay solvent. Okay, so they don't want that. They want you do your time, be unhealthy, and then you're gonna pass on and get off their balance sheet.
Oh yeah, I was trying to find a photo of a lieutenant that I worked for. His name's Tony DePalma. He aged out. He went out at 63 years old, but you got to see the guy. He was like sharp. I mean, I'm not expecting people to look like him. I can't find a picture of him before they kicked him out. But I mean, the guy was slim waist, shirt tucked, perfectly trimmed mustache. He was always the desk officer. He was a pain in the ass. He had a piano key all the way up his arm. But he was pissed. He didn't want to leave. And so him and a few other chiefs were suing, saying, well, I could still do the basic fitness test. Why do I have to leave? And so we used to make fun of him. So we get this kid that just gets out of the Air Force Academy. So he's like, I'm in better shape than this kid right here. He's like, this kid's 22 years old. I'm in better shape. And so like, show us, let's go. So we spread the tables apart. They do push-ups over the tables. He destroys the kid. He does like 50 more push-ups than that kid. And he didn't ever hit the gym. He golfed and he did push-ups and he did squats. And he went for walks. Like, you know, I wish I had the photo of him, but he's still alive today. So that shows to Marlon's point that, like, you know, they don't really want people like that where they're going to collect their pension for a long time, you know. But yeah, I mean, he was honestly, you know, he was like what you would want to be, like, from rookie. Like, he was a great example how you would want to be and retire off this job. Like, he I'm telling you, at 62, he smoked this kid that got out of the academy and push-ups. Smoked him.
The other conversation I think that we should have, and I know it's like the Antichrist for the NYPD. They don't want masculinity, but I haven't done it myself, but, you know, because I'm traveling, but eventually I want to, and that's testosterone replacement therapy. And I think as you get older, I think it's something that should be explored, especially for someone that's in their 50s or even, you know, their early 60s and they're about to age out. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you're getting it prescribed by a doctor, you're doing a job that requires physical fitness, your body goes through extreme changes, just like women that go through menopause. And I think that testosterone replacement therapy should be something that's talked about as a good thing, as long as it's by a doctor. And, you know, you're not trying to get someone's numbers to like 1,200, but you want to get someone's numbers, I would think about 700, 800, where they could do the job and they could and help them recover. If, you know, this way, if they're exercising, that they're not so sore that they can't perform at work. I think it's something that should be explored. I know it's become like the Antichrist, but I think it's a good thing. You know, I've never done it myself, but at some point I would like to. I'm getting older. I maintain physical fitness. I train often. And sometimes, you know, I get really sore. And I think that it's something that should be talked about. Unfortunately, it's like the Antichrist, but I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah. In fact, I wouldn't care if the department gave them some sort of waiver that allowed them to stay a year or a couple of years more until, you know, as long as they were in that as long as they were able to pass the Cooper's test, certainly. But yeah, this is I think this is a larger issue that needs to be talked about, and it's about society. And I was hoping that the MAHA movement, which is a Make America Healthy Again, would have completely been the revolution we needed for health in this country and for healthy food. I mean, they've made some changes, but it seems like we're still cozying up to the companies behind the scandemic, if you know what I mean. But I think it's a bigger problem, and you're seeing it in these young kids in the academy. You're seeing guys who are like, you come out of the academy and you're already overweight. If you're overweight from the academy, what's going to happen in like 10, 20 years, you know, when you get on that 10 years, even 5 years, even when you get on that grind and patrol and you're working like 7 days a week, 6 days a week. And, you know, you don't have days off, you know, and you're just eating like crappy food on your tours. So it's a larger conversation that needs to be had. And, I don't know when we're actually going to start having it.
Look, this is him, 62 and a half, right? At the day they kick him out. You know, I mean, like the guy's in, and again, he doesn't go to a gym. He doesn't lift weights. He does like these couple of minute workouts. He's not doing it at work. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. Was he the desk officer in the 1, 2, 3? Yeah. Was he doing massive amounts of overtime? No, but it doesn't matter. You could change your life with just dedicating yourself 10 minutes of your day. Wake up 10 minutes early, do whatever push-ups you could do, 5 sets of push-ups, however many, 5 sets of squats, a couple of crunches, and you're done. That's it. It's over. I mean, if you're telling me you don't have 20 minutes in the day, you're lying. I'm sorry. You're lying. You have 20 minutes for other things. You have 20 minutes to scroll on Instagram. You got 20 minutes to listen to us right now. I consume a lot of content. Most of my content I'm consuming, I'm doing it while I'm doing other things. I'm not looking at it. If you see me in a chat somewhere, I'm out and about, I'm commenting, I'm listening to it. I don't want to be in the phone and out of things. So like people call me, I'm taking phone, I'm always out of breath because I'm working out or I'm building something or I'm doing something. Like, you know, I think, you know, we gotta, there should be some type of easy fitness that each one of us could fit into our lives, regardless of our fitness level, regardless of our age.
Well, I don't know if the state troopers, do they have like some kind of fitness thing? Because it absolutely could be done. Look at the state troopers.
Yeah,
They're always
we do.
squared away, you know? When they walk up and be like, damn, this guy is in shape. Like, this guy looks like he's in the military. Like, you know, like that's the image that we should have. Like, you know, that's the image that we should want to have, you know?
Yeah, I got a funny ass photo, but I can't find it. This dude, he goes to the bathroom one day, so I steal it. My lieutenant gives me his lieutenant shirt, his shield. So I put it on. I put a gray mustache on, and I was just sitting at the desk. I put his glasses on.
I just want to say, John, I'm glad you brought up that picture because honestly, he looks great. And what's great is he's not trying to get the fountain of youth and look like he's 20 years old. You can clearly see he's an older guy, but he looks like a healthy older man, right? He looks healthy, and he looks like he's ready for the test. He looks great. It's a great picture. Speaking of someone else that looks great, look, Rob Lukash spent 35 years on the job, former chief. He looks great. He's in shape. He runs. He takes care of himself, so it can be done. And John, I agree with you. It's what you like. Find what you like. Some people it's weights. Some people it's doing jiu-jitsu. Some people it's boxing. Some people it's jumping rope. Some people it's Tai Chi. Find something that you like where you're being pressure tested and your heart rate is you're getting your heart rate up, even if it's just flexibility. But this is a great example, great picture.
Yeah.
To that guy in his retirement, shout out. I hope he's enjoying his retirement as long as he can. Live your life, enjoy. You look fantastic, brother.
Yeah, and it's free because you have the MMA clubs in the police academy and stuff like that. You go there and train. They have training all the time for free. They'll train you for free. And also, I think it will help with the recruit. Once we change our image that you have these masculine, in shape people in the police department, more people want to join. They'll be like, yeah, I want to be like that guy. That guy look like a hero. I want to be like him, you know. And then you'll get more people that in the right mindset to want to apply, you know. But like you guys said, it will never happen if city go bankrupt from all the retirement people.
Well, so other thing, you know, we're starting to get up there in the hour. We're about to start getting out of here. But before we do, I think we got to touch on that. Zohran Mamdani saying that he's going to, well, he wants to. City charter has to be revisited and revised. But he wants to give final disciplinary authority to the CCRB board. State Senator Kevin Parker, who received a donation of, I forget how much money, I believe it was $2,000 from the PBA in 2024. And only a few days after dropping the bill where he's seeking to actually revise the city charter, then president of the Guardians Association, Patrick Gordon, actually donated, I believe, $100 to him as well. So I guess Patrick Gordon's in support of Patrick Gordon and the PBA, I believe, would suggest that they are in support of, in fact, giving final disciplinary authority to the CCRB because they gave Kevin Parker the money. So, I mean, I'm thinking that you're supporting the candidate. If the candidate's putting legislation out, and you are systemically opposed to it, why would you donate to the campaign? So I think it's fair to say that the PBA and Pat Gordon support that. They support having final disciplinary authority. And if they don't, I think a real discussion needs to be had with the integrity of both the PBA and Pat. Because, I mean, I can't understand how this looks like viable, and then the PBA is out in the New York Post smacking the idea down. It's like, well, you gave money to the guy that presented it to the thing. And so Zohran Mamdani's fully on board with that. City Council Public Safety Chair, the CCRB testified in front of them the other day. They're asking for it. They're saying they're a toothless tiger. I wrote an article. Check it out. I'll pull back up the link now that we don't have any other stuff coming up on the screen. Check it out. You can put the link up on your phone. Bring it right over to our website. Read that article about the CCRB, what they're asking for. You can see a clip from that hearing. What do you guys think is the result of what will result? Marlon, we keep skipping you, so why don't you go first? What do you think is the result if CCRB has final disciplinary authority the way it sits?
Yeah, well, I think it's gonna just expedite the problems that we have in the job right now. I think it's gonna make recruiting even harder, recruiting the right people for the job even harder. I think it's gonna make guys want to do even less than, if the CCRB has the final say. But I think part of the reason why the unions don't care is because, again, if you're part of the cronyism class, the nepotism class, you'll be fine. This is just the tier 3. So I think what we're gonna see is something akin to some of the West Coast departments like Portland. I think, and I've said this before, that the NYPD is fully being turned into like a Portland PD or a Seattle PD, where there's just so much rules that you see Antifa running around doing whatever they want over there. And I think we have been well on our way to that since the de Blasio era, but this would fully bring us there, in my opinion.
I fully agree with Marlon, but I also agree with that there should be some kind of, not CCRB in particular, because CCRB is compromised. It's made up of people who are anti-police anyway. But I believe that there should be a new board or organization made up of civilians, but not overseen by the mayor. Maybe like a federal board or something like that has full disciplinary power, and made up of ex-law enforcement, people who understand the field, who's been out there, and who are going to be fair about it, but will break away from nepotism, right? Because this way, even if you know the chief, it's not going to help you. Something like that. I really don't think IAB does the job. I really don't think the job does the job, to hold accountability to those people that are, truly a problem. But I also don't think CCRB is going to be the right choice for it, because they're coming in with, a bias already. So it's a good idea, but it's the wrong unit to handle it.
I had put out a video about this because I feel wholeheartedly, deeply invested into the cause of CCRB. Obviously, being coined as the most complained cop, but I want to protect future cops, because I'll just be a footnote on the map if this goes through. There's no doubt in my mind, if Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, mayoral candidate, gets elected, this is the nail in the coffin, and this will be the death of the profession for the NYPD. If the Civilian Complaint Review Board has full authority over discipline, every cop in the NYPD right now, I'm speaking to you active cops because I care about you, rank and file, you are on thin ice. Why? Because 18 months is the statute of limitations. 18 months is the statute of limitations for a civilian complaint. So right now, if you have an active complaint, it's only a couple of months till potentially Mamdani could be the mayor of New York City. And if you get a new complaint right now, you have to worry also. And if you have a complaint that you consider as closed or dead, that could be reopened and revived and be used against you. And NYPD police officers deserve better. You deserve fair treatment and respect. And to me, having the Civilian Complaint Review Board have full authority is completely unfair to the police officers. It shows a lack of respect, and it's going to coincide with the ability to maintain public safety. I believe this is the death of policing. I'm telling every active cop right now, this is the last thing I want to say. But if you're an NYPD police officer, you cannot do intrusive police work if the obsessive Civilian Complaint Review Board that has a complete bias and disdain for the NYPD has full control over discipline or authority. You cannot engage in intrusive police work. Not only that, just being summoned to a 911 call could be bad roulette. If you're an ESU, if you're an E-man and you get summoned to remove someone that's emotionally disturbed involuntarily, you could find yourselves at the bad end of a Civilian Complaint Review Board. If you're doing a search warrant, just as Rob Lukash had mentioned the other day, if you're doing a search warrant, you can get a substantiated civilian complaint. How could anyone operate in this apparatus with the Civilian Complaint Review Board having the final say in discipline? It will be the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, what's important to note, Mamdani cannot actually implement this on his own. This would have to pass through city council. But there's no doubt in my mind that the city council, that the majority of them have an anti-police rhetoric tone already as we speak. This will pass, and then Zohran Mamdani evidently and obviously will not veto it. So this will go through if Mamdani is the mayor. Now, you'll say, would that change if Andrew Cuomo was the mayor? No. It's just going to sound different. But the CCRB will still be full of those that are obsessed and have a bias and disdain for policing. So Curtis Sliwa is your only choice. It's the only chance for the NYPD to survive.
Yeah. So right now it's in the Senate too. So there is a different avenues, but Mamdani definitely can't do that. Like, he can't just create law. You know, the law has to be created through the lawmakers. The mayor isn't a lawmaker, right? He could veto law. But then if the lawmakers still have a majority, it doesn't matter. They could override the mayor. But I mean, it is, you know, the problem here is that, like, the board, well, you know, Steve, you bring up at one point is that, like, the CCRB is really toothless towards people who are protected by the mayor. Right? Like, they like, we've showed you people video over the last 3 years that you're like, wow, I can't believe this cop wasn't arrested. And they didn't even get a scratch on them. And they're back out on the streets in New York making overtime, like, no problem, getting promoted. And then you've seen and then we've showed you videos of guys doing absolutely nothing wrong, being charged out with a knife. And then they had to use force, and the CCRB wants them terminated and can't even articulate why. And recently we've had a shooting where officers, after deploying the taser failing, as it often does, had to shoot a man who was charging at them with a pair of scissors. And the CCRB investigators did not find the officers guilty of anything. They cleared them of all charges. They said the officers acted properly and within their guideline. And the radical CCRB board decided that they weren't going to accept that determination and instead ruled that they want the officers terminated. So those officers right now are up for a department trial while they await Letitia James's office, who's also same scenario. The investigators in Letitia James's office found the officers to not do anything wrong. They deemed it a suicide by cop. Letitia James's office refuses to release that result. I'm hearing that Letitia James's office wants to push this issue further and take these cops down. So the problem is the mayor. So what we should all understand is that, like, the appointments of the CCRB board are crucial, and that is the mayor sets the tone for the city, right? So if you get a Zohran Mamdani, you get an Andrew Cuomo, you get an Eric Adams, you get the same thing. You get a radical CCRB board. We already saw the appointments of Andrew Cuomo by his on his parole board, right? They release cop killers all the time. We've never seen that before. So he appoints radicals. Not that he has a shot to be the mayor, but let's play pretend and say that he could be the mayor. If he was, you could expect those radical appointments by the CCRB board. Right now, as it sits with the CCRB board, Eric Adams, who claims to care about cops, doesn't even have the CCRB board properly staffed. He has no chair. He's missing one of his own appointments. He's missing one of the police commissioner appointments. So he's literally taking out the vote that could potentially help seek the truth and not target cops. So if we had a Curtis Sliwa as mayor, I put a video out yesterday about it, you would have a 9-6 vote. You would have a 9-6 vote on the CCRB board. Common sense versus what we could say is radicals. We could assume the 5 appointments by city council and the 1 appointment by the public advocate. We could just safely say that they're going to be radical, anti-cop, loving cop killers, loving criminals, right? It's safe to say that here, right? And so we could all say that. But if the mayor was competent, there should have been 9 competent appointments put in there, people seeking the truth. So when cops mess up, they get found guilty. When they don't mess up, they don't get found guilty. It's that simple. And that's the problem here as well. So as much as Zohran Mamdani can't change the law, he could affect a lot of things in New York City. But don't get it twisted. Everything that's happening in the CCRB board right now is the same thing that's going to be happening. That's the shit that's happening under Eric Adams, because he truly doesn't care. If he cared, it's simple to make these appointments, and he hasn't.
Well, if I may, so here's what I think is going to happen. Now, he doesn't have the power to necessarily make these changes overnight, but he can do it. And we know the progressives love to do this. He'll just end run around the actual law, and he'll tacitly tell the PC to just rubber stamp anything that comes from the CCRB, and then
which she basically does 99% of the time.
Well, yeah, they do it a lot of the times, but even Caban said no to a lot of their stuff too. But what I'm saying is
only for the Crumbs crew, though.
Well, yeah. But now I'm saying the PC will definitely, it will 100% rubber stamp whatever CCRB does, and in a lot of ways, what you see happening here when you have a liberal mayor, what they do is they realize that to some extent they're gonna have to police. So what they do is they let their underlings in the department, like Chell, right? He's going to push the young guys, give them the rah-rah, tell them to go out there and get their chases, play Dukes of Hazzard in Midtown, and get out there and, put some foot on heads, crack some skulls out there. But what happens when they do it and it gets caught on camera and things go sideways? Well, sorry, kid, okay? And that's what's going to happen. The department is gonna tell these young guys, go out there and get those collars, and when they get in trouble, CCRB, the PC is gonna rubber stamp the decisions by CCRB, and the department's gonna wipe their hands with you, and your union's gonna wipe their hands with you, and they're gonna be like, well, we told him to go out there and get those collars, but we didn't explicitly tell him to put his foot on their head. Yeah. So,
Marlon, that is a great point. I want to say that I think you nailed it, right? So at the infancy of this podcast, John and myself brought awareness to the disciplinary matrix. And John, if you remember, we had watched the testimony of Key Chan Sewell, who has been revered and loved by most people. And we watched her testify at the city council about when she deviates from the disciplinary matrix when it comes to CCRB cases. And I remember at the time, John, I don't remember what the numbers are, maybe remember, but it was extremely minimal. When she herself or police commissioners were deviating from the disciplinary matrix in regards to a final determination by CCRB or an administrative trial. And it was slim to none when it came to deviation from the disciplinary matrix. So, Marlon, to your point, spot on. If this doesn't get implemented soon, the legislation takes some time, you're right. Whoever will be the police commissioner will be at the behest of Zohran Mamdani or Andrew Cuomo if they win. And CCRB will still be obsessed and have their bias and disdain, and they will have their way because the weak leadership will be appointed by those potential two mayors. Again, another reason why Curtis Lewa is the only choice. It's the only choice for public safety. So if you think, it's funny we talk about this, right? Eric Adams was the savior, yet the board is not even properly staffed that could find the truth. These cases are not engineered to find the truth. They're engineered to have an obsession to find guilt on the police officers. So to your point, Marlon, you nailed it, brother.
Yeah. So, it was crazy. So forget Key Chan Sewell. On the last CCRB meeting, on this one, Gerber, who's the deputy commissioner of legal matters, he testifies that he's like, this isn't even an issue because we rarely ever deviate from it. It was like, I forget the number he said, but it was like 2 times. Maybe it was like once. So like 99.9% of the time, the police commissioner, it's blanket. What are those 0.02% of the times? They got a phone call that was heavy enough that they're like, yeah, let's take care of this kid. Like that was those are the only times they could care less about seeking the truth either. Here's the CCRB chair, the interim chair, Muhammad Khalid, Dr. Muhammad Khalid. He's a dentist, so obviously that's why Adams seeks that he should be, CCRB chair and weighing on police matters, obviously. And the Republicans on Staten Island aren't saying anything about this either, but he's the one that wants to have these cops terminated for protecting their own life. So here he goes. Here's his little speech. And this is, I titled my my article around this toothless tiger. You know,
high-profile cases demonstrate that NYPD often rejects or downgrades CCRB's recommendations. Do you have an opinion on what tools or authority CCRB needs to ensure its substantiated findings lead to meaningful accountability, especially in cases of serious misconduct?
Chair, looking at the current conditions, what is happening in few of the cases, I think time has come that the city council or whatever the authorities are, the whole discipline authority should be giving to the CCRB for a proper disciplinary action instead of giving to the police commissioner. We have seen in cases that this case was the deputy police commissioner Maldonado did a case that it was told that the police officer should be dismissed. But our recommendation went and the police commissioner turned the other way. So I think that we investigate cases, we know what's in there. And I think it's plus 30 years that this agency was established. And now I would characterize it this way. We are tiger, but we don't have the teeth. So I think it's the time that we should be given the full authority of investigating and making determination what we should be giving to the police officer, their discipline-wise. So it should not be given everything to the police commissioner to make a decision. I think 30 more years have passed. It's time now that we should be doing the disciplinary action as well, since we investigate police department.
Yeah, so that was Dr. Dentist Muhammad Khalid. So that's good, right? Would you appoint a dentist if you were the mayor, Steve?
It depends how bad my teeth are. But, you know, the PC already rubber stamps, like you guys said. So what difference does it make? You know, the PC only overrides it when it's one of their cronies, you know? But I think they should be able, if it does get done, let's face reality, right? If Madami does win and it does get passed, they should at least have a chart or like a set standards for, if you do this, this is the disciplinary action that you could take. Period. Meaning they can't just make up their own thing. Oh, this guy should be dismissed for being discourteous. No. You know, like this guy should be dismissed because he's white. No. This guy should be let off and given a chance because he's black. No. You know, like it should be fair across the board. If it's going to be done, then make it fair, right? Where it's like, okay, you did this. It's proven and on camera that you did this, right? You're seen doing this for no reason, whatever. Then this is your disciplinary action. 10 days, whatever, stuff like that. If it's gone to CCRB, it's not criminal, right? So what do you mean what do you give me dismissed for? For what? Right? Like you're getting dismissed for going up to somebody and searching them, doing your job? No, that's not really fair. You know, they shouldn't have they shouldn't have the power to dismiss somebody, but they could send them to retraining, right? Or take days or whatever, or, you know, reassign this person. And you know what, this area is probably not a good fit for you. Go someplace else or something like that. Or this unit is probably not a good fit for you. Go someplace else or whatever. But also the people in CCRB have to be fair. You have to get the right people in CCRB. This could work if you get the right people in there. And if you break away from the mayor. You can't be under city rule. You can't be oversight by the city. Just like the police department. I don't think the police department should even be under the mayor. You know, like it should be independent. It should be broken off from politics. It should be completely apolitical. You know, like politics shouldn't involve with anything in the department. The department shouldn't even get involved in politics, period. You know, and that's what it will work, but you know, it's politics, so it's not going to work out that way. So it's just a fantasy.
So even though that the commissioner in the majority of these cases does rubber stamp it, thank God the police commissioner still has the final say in case we get something so egregious like what we're seeing right now in the Wynn Rosario case, right? Where two police officers are in close proximity to an armed, emotionally disturbed person who is putting the cops in vulnerability and danger by charging at them with a scissor. And any cutting instrument could be deadly. So thank God it's still in the hands of the police commissioner, even though they rubber stamp them. Now, the problem is there is a standard that they're applying, and the standard that they're applying doesn't work. So that's what needs to be fixed also. So the CCRB heavily weighs their discipline based on the disciplinary matrix, and the disciplinary matrix is the detriment to the job right now. That made its inception in January of 2021. Thank you to another coward in the NYPD, former Commissioner Dermot Shea, who allowed the disciplinary matrix to pass. And the problem with this disciplinary matrix is if you have what they call aggravating factors. So those issues that you just mentioned could be aggravating factors. Your time and rank, they don't like the way you look. They find a way to use aggravating factors. And in a lot of those cases, the CCRB can implement termination. Now, if you're part of tier 2, if you have the right connections, then you could get those mitigating factors and get quite different penalty. You get a slap on the wrist where someone else could get terminated. So not only do we have to worry about CCRB's ability to have final say, but we still have the disciplinary matrix, which allows and gives a lot of room to get cops terminated for simple administrative infractions. So this is scary at this point. You have to take a look. If you've not taken a look, active cops, retired cops, or just police enthusiasts, look at the disciplinary matrix. It's completely far from fair and equitable. That disciplinary matrix is a huge problem, weighing heavily on police officers when it comes to discipline. So this is a major issue. And the problem also is, I understand what you're saying, but in the majority of cases, because I watch the cases, I've been a part of them, I've seen other police officers, they're being found guilty, and the investigation is completely inaccurate because they testified, the CCRB at City Council, they do not take the totality of circumstances, only based on the needs and the desires and the complaint of the complainant, because it's the Civilian Complaint Review Board. So it's completely biased. They do not seek the truth. They seek an outcome in any way, shape, or form to find guilt on the police officers. So this, to me, is the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, no, I won't say that it's the nail in the coffin, because I think we're all mischaracterizing what's actually happening right now. You know, I think, basically, if you don't know anybody, you're screwed. That's basically what it comes down to. If you don't get in the public's favor, you're screwed. So I think, the only people that are being protected right now are people by the mayor. I think that the CCRB is highly broken system, and I think it's a lot of fear mongering around Mondani, because the same thing that they're saying is going to happen. It's like, well, Jessica Tisch has the authority. I don't believe she has the chutzpah to weigh against on the Wynn Rosario case. What happens comes out politically. That's why she hasn't weighed in on it. That's why she's bringing it to a department trial. I hope I'm wrong on that scenario, but I just don't see it. I don't see it. She's weak on a lot of issues, and I think she's going to be weak here. And that's just how I'm seeing it. And unfortunately, I wish I didn't feel that way, but I do. And I'm just doing it based upon what I'm seeing. She's been dead silent about everything. And when you hear her people testify in front of the city council and in front of CCRB, they only talk about how they accept all of these recommendations. And as someone who was the CCRB liaison, the only one in the department, so I was the CCRB liaison for a few months, maybe about a year. I watched case after case that really was not proven, and it was disgusting. And I watched people get hammered for absolutely no reason. And that was in 2016. You know what I mean? And and it was ridiculous. And the job wasn't fighting it then. I was bringing it to the deputy commissioner. I was bringing it to the commissioner's attention. They weren't fighting it then. So now it's much worse. You're a rank and file cop. CCRB is a big problem for you. Last thing for today, I totally forgot about this. I was crazy busy yesterday, but we get labeled as spreading misinformation all the time. And we had told you about that the city was trying to change your health care. Eric Adams was trying to go after the elderly and the retirees and the people who were 65 and older or who are disabled. And we also told you 3 years ago that your your health care is up on the line now too. And they're going to change your health care. And the union said that they put out all these forms saying we were spreading misinformation. We didn't know what we were talking about. And, they completely lied. So here was the vote that was taking place to change your health care for active members. And if you're retired and under 65, this concerns you as well. If you see the union, the DEA, the PBA, the SBA, the UFA, and the UFOA voted no, but the Lieutenants Benevolent Association and the Captains Endowment Association voted yes. Really doesn't matter the DEA, the PBA, and the SBA's no vote. They knew it was getting passed, so that no vote is a show no vote. It's not an actual, oh, we're so against this. Because what they did is they sold your health care out to get those raises. But you got your raise because of that healthcare, and that's what we told you. So I didn't fully vet all this information yet, but this is coming out. It seems pretty accurate. I'll come back if any of this stuff is proven to be inaccurate, and we'll tell you. But right now, this is what we believe that it to be at this point. We're gonna dig deeper, and we're gonna be talking about this for a while as things unfold. So starting January 1st, 2026, the city of New York is eliminating the GHI CBP plan and moving all in-service workers and pre-Medicare retirees into a new plan called the New York City PPO NYC PPO plan. What they're saying, same copays, bigger national network, fewer prior authorization, one ID card, simpler coverage. What they're not saying, hospital costs change from $300 flat fee to $750 per stay. Imaging like MRIs, CAT scans, double from $50 to $100. Out-of-network risks and balance billing could hit harder. The contract is only locked in for 5 years, and after that, every single thing is back on the table. If you're 65 plus and you're already on Medicare, this doesn't apply. But for those under Medicare age, this is a forced change that can mean thousands more of out-of-pocket costs in the years before we qualify Medicare. And just to go back, Eric Adams paused that. They're going to change you if you're 65 or older or if you're disabled and on Medicare. That is coming down the pipeline. Eric Adams only paused that for the election. That is coming into play. It won't if Curtis Lee was elected, but if you're going to vote for Cuomo and ensure Mamdani victory, then 100% that change is coming too. I've run the numbers. I don't know who this person is. For heavy users, frequent doctor use, imagine hospital stays. The new PPO could cost $1,400 plus more dollars a year, or $7,000 extra for over 5 years compared to what we had on the GHI. Spread the word. Don't just accept the headlines. Ask questions. Go to union meetings. This change is being sold as an upgrade, but the reality is many retirees and their families will feel the squeeze. We've all served this city. We deserve better than getting nickel and dime from our health care. I agree, but I just disagree with one point on there. It's not just the retirees who are affected. It's you idiots, too, who listen to the unions when we told you they were going to change your health care, and we said they were selling you out with this contract and selling your health care on the table, and you said, no, the union told me this was misinformation. They told me that you guys are spreading lies. And now here you go.
Yeah. You know, the elephant in the room in all this, and I hate to seem like I'm beating a dead horse, but the elephant in the room. Huh?
You're not a boomer, you're a doomer.
Well, maybe.
With Marlon, it's always like doom and gloom, like around a high note. Hold on.
No, believe me, it's not doom and gloom. It's doom and gloom for those who don't think, who fail to get out of their bubble, you know. But I hate to say it, but you know, my thing, I've said it before, that the elephant in the room is the city's broke, and everything they're doing, including the DEI and all this progressive stuff, is really a cover for austerity measures. Okay. And I said it before, like the reason why I said it before, they don't want you to be healthy because they want you off the balance sheet. Okay. They want to create a terrible work-life environment because they want you, when you have time on, they want you, the best thing that you could ever do for them is to leave early. Leave the job early. Okay, get a small pension than you would otherwise have if you stayed longer. That's what they want. And they don't want you to be active. Why don't they want you to be active? Well, because they want to close Rikers. That's $12 billion right there. Close down Rikers, build smaller borough jails with less people in them, and their city will reap the benefits of the property tax. The politicians will reap the benefits of rewarding the billionaire donor class. Okay, everybody's happy. Everybody gets their crumbs. Okay, and the city doesn't have to, pay to feed, house, and clothe these, thousands of perps in Rikers. Right? The elephant in the room is because the city's functionally bankrupt. Okay, and you don't have to take my word for it. You just got to see the city's own financials, which say they have a $6 billion hole, and every year $6 billion. I believe it's starting 2026, $6 billion then, and it'll be 12 billion the year after, and so on and so forth. And this is before the problems hit with real estate. And if you look at these things through just straightforward, you'll never understand why this is happening. You have to look at other issues going on, and then it allows you to put two and two together and figure out, hey, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Why are they cutting your health benefits? Why are they doing this all of a sudden? If the city was in a healthy shape, would they be need to do this? No, they wouldn't. They're doing this because they need to cut the balance sheet. They need to cut expenses. And one of the largest expenses for cities is entitlements. Okay. And that includes your pension costs, your health care, your retirement costs. Okay. They need to cut these, okay, and they need to find ways to do it without you knowing what the problem is, because they don't want you to panic.
John and I have been attacked by every entity possible since the inception of this podcast. And the first attack we received was from the unions because we sounded the horn on exactly the issues with medical care, because we cared. And we were attacked and said that the information we're putting out there is wrong. And look, it's come to light. We had Marianne Pizziolo on the podcast trying to bring awareness to the cops, because what you're saying, Marlon, is absolutely right. The goal should be to live a healthy life and spend more time in retirement. That's how you beat the system. You spend more time in retirement getting a pension longer than you did working for the NYPD or another agency. But the problem is them upping your medical care is a real obstacle when you're working and living on a fixed income. So we wanted to bring awareness to you that this is the underlying part of the package or the raise that came about after 6 years that the cops fought for. And this was the part that we're talking about. Is look into what is the medical plan. That's very important. And for some of the cops, young on the job or midway, that might not be a thought right now, but you hope to spend more time in retirement. So this is a very big concern. You have to pay attention to it. Steve, what are your thoughts on medical care?
Sorry, the mic muting. I think Marlon's right. I think Marlon's 1,000% correct. I think the city is bankrupt, and they're looking for ways to cut the fat, and unfortunately, it comes down to this. Just like the MTA, they're bankrupt too. They were like almost like $1 trillion in bankruptcy or something like that. And I see it in 2020 when they went to the New York State Senate and they tried to ask for billions of dollars, and then they were saying, okay, we give you the billions of dollars, but how are you going to make up the difference? There's hundreds of billions of dollars more that you can't get, And then the congestion pricing thing came down, and raising MTA tolls and stuff like that. And it's 1,000% correct. It's they're trying to cut it. This is unfortunate, and it's a bigger scheme of things. Of course, it's always about money, But yeah, Marlon hit it right in the head.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. No, it's disgusting that you're just being gaslit and sold out by the unions. And again, I personally think that they have a plan for all this for themselves. I can't see how they're dealing away their own healthcare. There's got to be something else there on the table, or there's something that we're missing, or there's a different plan somewhere. Doesn't make sense to me at all. So yeah, that's it. I mean, I really got nothing else today. I think we're going on 2 hours, 34 minutes. Anybody got anything before we get out of here?
Yes. To Marlon's point, I got to read this comment. Shout out to Rob Lucash again. He's on fire. Listen to this. My friend's father is 90. The pension section sends him a letter. He needs to get it notarized to prove he's alive every 6 months. Marlon, you nailed it today. You were the MVP today, brother. You're spot on, dude, because that is clear right now. Like, you didn't die yet? You're still collecting a pension? They don't want him collecting a pension. That's what's going on here. So, yes, Friday roundtable, 2 hours and 35 minutes into it. A lot of topics to go over. Honestly, we could go all day. There's so much minutia that we could talk about. So, Steve, as always, brother, you know you're a friend of the family here. You are family, brother. You can come on anytime. You're always welcome. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks.
Steve, let's get your thoughts about Friday's roundtable.
I love it, man. I love it. I love that. Even on watching your shows during the weekdays, I love it that you guys are giving us a voice. You guys are saying what a lot of cops are not able to say. I wouldn't say they're scared, but they're not able to say the things that you guys are saying. And it helps actually release some stress and some anxiety and stuff like that, because you guys are our voice. And I appreciate it, man. You guys are doing great. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Detective Pendergast, he says, what's the barcode? I just told you. It's check it out. Put your phone up to it. It's a QR code. It'll bring you right over to our website. Make sure you go over there, like and subscribe. Oh, well, you can't like there, but you could, if you could like and subscribe here, or if you're watching on X or wherever else you're watching or listen, if you could like and subscribe. But on our website specifically, if you could subscribe, sign up, we'll send you our newsletter weekly when that comes out. We have articles. We're not going to bombard you with stuff. Like I hate getting emails, so we're not going to be sending you a ton of emails. But just subscribe so that we are able to send you emails if we need to go out. If for some reason we change platforms, we did get a couple of great, generous donations. So I just want to say shout out to former Chief Michael Osgood. Generous donation supporting the finest unfiltered through the website. You're able to donate through the website as well. Also, shout out to Bobby Putney. Generous donation, and we appreciate that. Other people, I'm not going to shout you out because I don't know if you guys want us to tell you that, so I won't shout other people out, but I'll shout the people out that I know that have no issue saying that they're friends, or they know they're friends of us and friends of this podcast. Just to read the chats, I just want to give a shout out to Rich OG, donated $20. Thank you, my brother. Always going in your pocket. Really appreciate it. Appreciate always being here with us. And then, of course, how could we forget our good friend Hassan Mo, 1999 to the podcast. Let's read this one. Good morning, Triple H. So he's referring to me. Ric Flair and Steve Urkel. He's saying Scott Moreau and Kaz Daughtry. Much respect for you guys. Just buying my Crumbs Gold Edition book pre-order. Marlon, I predict you'll slip on the mic one with Mo's meat packing sauce in loving memory of Derek.
So when Hassan gives us money, it's not coffee and donuts, it's olive oil.
So listen, Hassan, don't put your vest on and show up to any details because you want to meet the president. All right, bro? I just want to, that's the lesson you should have took out of here today. All right, bro?
Hassan, I have to say thank you to Hassan. He sent me olive oil. I'm not sure if he wanted me to drink. What did you want me to do with that olive oil?
I put it in my beard, bro. I put it.
He
Sent me some olive oil.
Yeah. He wants you to throw a Diddy party.
Yeah, I don't. Well, you sure? I gotta look at the bottle.
Lady boys.
Olive oil.
Olive oil's awesome, man. That olive oil is that's right from it's right from Jerusalem, man. That olive oil is unbelievable.
That's legit, bro. It's
yeah.
So Friday roundtable. Thank you, everybody. I think Marlon, you were the MVP today, bro. Great job as always. Good stuff, Steve. It's always great having you here. And
thank you for having me.
John, me and Marlon, we really appreciate it. Monday, we'll be back, of course. I can't believe how fast these weeks are flying. More content for you. I can only imagine what comes out this weekend. And, of course, Tuesday, Sal Greco. And Tuesday night, 10-4 Tavern. Wednesday, we'll be back again. Wednesday night, Executive Perspective. This is a packed network. As you said, we're a voice. But also, our engagement here, friends and listeners and haters, you're a voice also, and we collaborate together. That's we're a team of collaborators to get out the information, talk about the content, and give our information to those dangerous mics, not firearms. Apparently, mics are the most dangerous. So if a mic is dangerous, you know what? I'm gonna make sure I go concealed carry. So we go concealed carry by mic.
I'm out on Monday, by the way, people. I'm not going to be here. I'm putting my 28 in now. I'm celebrating my Heritage Indigenous Peoples Day. So I'm going to be out. I'm taking a 3-day weekend, you know. Oh, not Indigenous People Day. I'm sorry. Columbus Day, right? Oh, yeah, you forgot about that, Eric Adams, didn't you? You know. So, I'm putting my 28 in now. Eric and Marlon will be here, I'm sure. And yeah, looking forward to it. All right, people. All right, that's it. Steve, thanks for coming with us, brother. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Look forward to having you back. And all right, guys. Have a great day.
All
right.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.